Can I please get everyone to take their seats? Okay, we all hunky-dory? It's a little chilly out there, is it? Okay, Madam Clerk, it is 5 minutes after 7. We're in Council Chambers Monday, February the 10th for the continuation of our Special General Committee budget meetings. First of all, could I please have a motion to resume? Councillor Buck, thank you. Second. Councillor Thompson, all in favor? Contrary? That's carried. It's not on the agenda, but just a reminder if there's any declarations of pecuniary interest as we go through. Could I please have a motion to add these additional items to the agenda? And they're on our sheet. Councillor Buck, thank you. Is there a second? Councillor Humphreys, thank you. Comments or questions on that? All in favor? Contrary? That's carried. Thank you very much. Mr. Elliott, it would appear as usual that you are up first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm pleased to provide a brief overview of where we're at and a little comparison as to where we're at with our neighbors. And before we get too far in, I'd like to let you know that despite the audience attending here tonight, we did receive an email today on our town budget email account, and we were politely asked if we were interested in relocating our house or our business and if they could assist us with that. So clearly we get spammed as well. But no, we have not received any email input from our community, which is anywhere we wanted, I believe. I was thinking south with a beach. So let me start off. I've distributed a slide deck in front of you. Hopefully you can read it. If you can't, we'd be happy to. Actually, the presentation will be on the website tomorrow. The residential tax rate comparisons, again, this is just straight tax rate from 2013's community around the York region. And you can see Aurora is in solid company in the middle with King and East Gwillimbury there. Newmarket and Georgina actually have higher tax rates than ourselves, and the others somewhat less. But that doesn't tell the whole story. That's just the tax rate on paper. What really needs to happen is you take that and you apply it to the same house around the community and around the region. And so the BMA municipal study is a great source for this information. They take the same house and they determine what its assessment is or would be in each municipality using the assessment rolls in comparable properties and some assistance from MPAC. And so they take the assessment value of that bungalow. They don't tell us what it is, but they print out what the taxes would be using those tax rates on the previous slide. So now you see that Vaughan, King, and Markham end up with higher taxes on that property than four of us in the center, pretty much even, and then Georgina, East Gwillimbury, being further from the City of Toronto, as could be expected, the assessments are substantially less than they would be here in Central York. And then we have taken a look at what our friends around us are doing. Currently, we've got a draft of 3.81% budget increase on our stack there. You can see what the others are doing. King has a 4.55 happening at this moment. I gather it's fairly early in the process. And Markham, 2.5. They're almost approved. And so they're all at different stages, but I just provide this to you as information. I can't make a judgment one way or the other, but clearly when we're sitting in the middle and we've got a King and a Markham considering, and Vaughan, all considering tax increases. Ours in the middle is not going to put us heads and tails above anybody else. And so there's, I would argue there's room to move, but it's truly just information for your pleasure and consideration. So then we also layer on what's the water cost to the taxpayer, to the homeowner with that same bungalow, and we move a little bit further to the left because Newmarket's water rates, you can see, and Stouffville's are a little higher than ours. And so that just moves us a little to the left on the same chart. And then the total municipal burden, this is based on the average residential tax bill, using number of properties and the total taxes levied for those properties. What is the average tax bill in the different municipalities? And this tells us clearly that Aurora has properties on average that are much larger than a bungalow, with an average tax bill somewhere in the $4,800 range, plus the water brings it up over $5,200. But again, we're in fairly good company there with Markham and Newmarket. Vaughan's a little ahead of us, not far, and you can see the comparisons. So I just, again, compile this information for your convenience and consideration. When we look at it as a percent of total household income, Aurora moves further to the left. And this tells us that our average family income is fairly strong in Aurora, and that's nothing new. But we also recognize that there are those in our community that enjoy a lifestyle at a much lower family income. And so, again, we've shown the water, wastewater separate from the tax, but the stack is important because you can do a little bit of different loading, or people have different philosophies about water and tax and how it might be subsidized. We're supposed to all be going to full cost recovery. There's interpretations to that, but I think this is a fair graphic that shows us doing very well for our community as a percent of household income. So some of the quick operating budget facts. We've got a $53 million expenditure plan. 44% of that is for staffing costs alone. And this year's budget adds 2 staff, bringing us to 207 full-time staff. We have $18.6 million of non-tax revenue sources, including $4.1 million coming to us from our reserves. Our new tax revenue from growth is about $550,000, and our net increase due to a rate change due to budget pressures is $1.28 million. And our total 2014 tax levy is expected at this time to be $34.8 million. So that's just a quick quick facts. And other than staffing cost increases, the total operating expenditures, net of those new revenues, increased by only $120,000 for the town-controlled activities. So that's the directors that sit in this room and the CAO. The areas that we have direct control over increased by a net of $120,000. Previously, we've already approved $8.1 million for improving our existing infrastructure, $1.2 million for new infrastructure, and $230,000 for special studies. So if we look at this before we compartmentalize this as to where the pressures were coming from, and this time I like to compartmentalize it a little bit differently. So what does it cost to run Aurora today? We require a 2.89% tax increase for our operations, including our new staffing, Central York Fire, and library, net of our growth revenue. So to run Aurora today, we need 2.89% tax increase, which is not far off inflation when you consider some of the dynamic pressures that we're receiving, particularly from the fire side of the equation. So that's for improving our services, meeting our growth, and it provides efficient and accountable government. In the next box is preparing for future Aurora, looking down the road in future planning and trying to avoid pitfalls or setting traps for future councils. We are increasing the investment in our infrastructure and also reducing our reliance on the hydro funds and that adds 0.92 to our tax rate pressures. And so that gives us a long-term plan to keep the town assets in good condition, working well, and reduces our reliance on that hydro fund while preserving the purchasing power of those funds. And that gives us a tax rate increase today of 3.81. So that's the combined tax rate. And when we combine that with the region and the school board expected rates, it's just over 2% on the corner of the residents' tax bill. And it's less for non-res. So on your agenda tonight, you have seen that we need an additional $75,100 for increased liability insurance premiums. And I know that there's a couple of presentations to address that. Once we factor that in from the 3.8, that brings us up to 4.02 or 2.10 on the combined basis. So that slide is the last slide in your deck, and I provide that for your information. That, Mr. Mayor, are my comments. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Can I have a motion, first of all, to receive Mr. Elliott's presentation? Councillor Buck, thank you. Councillor Abel. Questions on this presentation for Councillor Buck?
Mr. Elliott, we do this every year, and every year it occurs to me that the comparison between the urban municipality and the rural municipality skews things somewhat. We note that the King and Markham and Vaughan have, and King, the highest of all tax rate. And King, I think, is probably the largest rural municipality without development. Markham and Vaughan are still large rural areas, undeveloped, but huge areas that are developed. So King is the highest. And it has always been the understanding, the very real, the reality is that when you have a population condensed in an urban center, you have far more assessment being derived from a far smaller area because you have far more people paying for the services. The lots are 40 feet wide. We have more townhouses now. So that the comparison between an urban center and a rural center doesn't really contribute anything to the discussion because there are significant differences. The thousands of miles of roads that need to be plowed with no people on them. The policing of all that area with no population, literally minimal population to cover the cost. All the costs are naturally far higher in a rural area than they should be or would be in an urban area. And yet we continue to use those municipalities as comparators when we're putting ourselves in the classes. And we are in fact the highest of the urban municipalities. You take out the rural municipalities, and that includes Witchert, Stouffville, and Georgina, and East Gorhambury. We are Newmarket and Aurora and Richmond Hill, and we're the highest of the three. That doesn't comfort me to know that. But I'm still taking contention with the using the townships as comparisons for the urban municipality. They really don't compare in terms of assessment and services.
Thank you, Councillor Buck. Any other comments from anybody?
Even Mr. Mayor, if I may add, it would be interesting to know what percentage of the people in a rural municipality actually have a water system. I think probably we would find that the majority are maintaining their own wells. They're not contributing to the clarity of Lake Simcoe because there are no water bills going out to them. They're not. They don't have stormwater ponds
Is that a question,
pay
Councillor?
for. Yeah, it's not a question, Mr. Mayor, so much as it's an observation.
Okay.
And
Just asking.
dissatisfaction with using those tax rates they don't tell us anything about our standing because they don't compare. That's just...
If I may.
I think I've said it before in different ways, Mr. Elliott, but I keep saying it.
Absolutely, Councillor, and you're absolutely right. This is why I draw out this slide first, being the actual tax rate, the percentage of your assessment that you pay in taxes, because this does not tell the whole story. And so then the best way to sort of equalize that is to use this same bungalow and move it around in each municipality and say, what would that family be paying if they were in Georgina, or if you moved that house down to Markham, what would they pay there? And you could get into splitting this whole argument into services and amenities that they might enjoy in different communities, and you're absolutely right. Are they on water? Are they not on water? So I just do my best to present what I believe is a fair picture, and we could argue about this all year long, I'm sure. And I'd enjoy it.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Any other comments or questions on this presentation, Councillor Abel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm looking at comparable residential bungalow, comparison 2013. And you have a slide just below it, comparable. Okay, so one is comparison of 2013 taxes. At any rate, King is on the right side and very high. And as Councillor Buck says, that's a rural area.
Is this the slide you're looking at, sir?
No. That one. But they're all very similar. And so when you're talking about a rural area and the cost per bungalow, it's going to be much higher. But right beside those are two very tall columns. One's Vaughan and one's Markham, which I would consider the more populated and concentrated. Can you explain, if we agreed on the fact that rural are costing more, what is this? Why you would think that Vaughan and Markham would be the least? Why would that be the case here? Because it shows slide after slide that King is up there, and so is Markham, and so is Vaughan.
Mr. Elliott, can you help?
I think that I'm not necessarily completely supportive of the argument that rural equals more expensive. Widely distributed and sparsely populated certainly can contribute to it, but it goes to service levels. And I think what you're seeing there is that Vaughan and Markham definitely have much higher amenities and service levels in their communities than does King. And they're also addressing different issues in their budgets. But I think across the board, you could pick and choose and say this one's rural and this one's urban, this one's got lots of growth potential, this one doesn't. I think Newmarket and ourselves are fairly close to comparable, and perhaps Richmond Hill, they're getting close to build out as well. Markham's got lots of space to grow, as Councillor Buck said, as does Vaughan, Woodchurch, Stouffville. All of the rest, I believe, have significant growth ahead of them. So we're all at different stages.
So it's all sort of a different kettle. It's tough to make a generality.
Yeah. Again, it's very difficult to compare taxes in one jurisdiction to another, and this is the best way that I've found to do it in 20 years of trying to do it.
Now, King, as an example, it doesn't have a dedicated 24 fire service throughout the whole. So then they wouldn't be paying as much in fire service because it would cost a fortune to cover it.
If I'm not mistaken, they're trying to bring that on, and that may be one of the drivers behind their tax pressures.
It'd be a lot to afford to build stations and crews. We know that firsthand. And also perhaps a library, state-of-the-art library like we have here. So in Aurora, those are two of the biggest expenditures we have. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments on this particular presentation? Councillor Gartner.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. With the comparison of the bungalows, what would be the reason that they wouldn't give us the price of the bungalow they're talking about? And would it make any difference to compare different bungalow prices?
I don't think it does necessarily. It's just they give us the straight up tax amount that they would pay. I could easily go back and do the math through it, because they give us the taxes and they give us the rates, so it's just math to come up to the assessment value, but they don't publish that. I don't see that it does much it doesn't provide much additional information. It's simply saying a house in Markham pays this much, the same house in Georgina pays this much. Then it's up to the reader then to say, are they enjoying different amenities? Yes, they're further away from the city, but they're closer to the lake. Again, as I said to Councillor Buck, we could I shouldn't have said argue about this all year. We could discuss this all year and enlighten each other in many ways, but at the end of the day, it's a very difficult concept to do, matching taxes across municipalities.
Thank you. With respect to costs today, have you ever seen costs go down from year to year?
Mr. Elliott?
We've seen the cost of gasoline go down overnight. We've seen I've not seen the cost of tuition go down anytime recently. That's my favorite one lately. No, I have not seen overall cost go down. I've seen some segments stay flat, and it depends on the budgeting and the environment and the priorities of council. If you're trying to expand service in a specific area, you're going to see cost increases in that to deliver that additional service. Salaries often are tied to inflationary indexes, and you want to be treating your staff and compensating your staff appropriately. And those are drivers that are competitive in the marketplace. So we have to keep up with that. And so, no, I have not seen costs decrease in total year over year.
So we could just expect to see costs increasing year after year?
Same as we do in our own checkbooks.
Thank you. Preparing for Aurora's future, reducing our reliance on the hydro fund. We haven't done that this year, have we?
Yes. Yes, we have.
Could someone remind me?
There was an amendment to reduce it from $500,000 draw to $400,000.
Thank you.
That was adopted.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Mr. Elliott? To the presentation, Councillor? Please.
On Councillor Gertner's question about costs decreasing, we have in fact seen for a number of years the Board of Education taxes have been frozen. The province has uploaded a greater share every year of the cost of education, and yet we haven't seen a corresponding decrease in our taxes as a result of a greater share of that cost going to the province. It has been, there has been a significant, how many years is it, Mr. Elliott, they've been frozen?
Mr. Elliott?
I'm thinking that the increase is closer to, the freeze on the rate. It's actually neutralized each year. So the advertised rate changes because your assessment goes up, so the rate goes down a little each year. I think that's been going on since about 2005. I'm thinking back, maybe it was earlier, back to the Harris days of the province of Ontario. I'm just trying to flip through to a slide here. Here's where you see it, is because of the practice of what the region or the province is doing, they're doing it, some would argue, and I would as the treasurer argue, that they're creating some tax room on the bill for the municipalities to address their funding circumstances around infrastructure. So the province is taking on more cost of education by not increasing your tax rates on education to allow us a little additional room, so increase our taxes a little bit more than we might otherwise. And then you see what happens here. The region has been doing this a little bit, or causing that impact as well. We can increase our taxes by just under 4%, yet the taxpayer only sees a 2% change on their bill. And so that's giving us a little more room on the bill.
But wouldn't it be true that if the province is taking a greater share of the cost of education and the municipality is paying less, and we still see increases in our taxes, that means that our increases are actually more than they appear to be because we are swallowing up that space. We used to have, I think, our share of the tax bill collected was less than 30%, in the mid-20s, I think, between 25 and 27%. Now it's up to 35%.
Those were the days, yes.
35% of that tax revenue comes to the town as opposed to 25%, and still we see our tax bills going up. That's not acceptable to me. That Board of Education tax was a huge burden on the homeowners, and that's why the province uploaded it, because of the clamour over the years that they should. But as well as taking over the responsibility, they've taken over the financial responsibility, they've taken over the decision-making as well. So that cost as well. We have less jurisdiction at the local level of our education than we did.
Councillors, all in favour of receiving Mr. Elliott's presentation, please? Contrary? Thank you. Well, you're paying him, Councillor. It's just coming from a different pocket.
Not so much.
Income tax?
Not so much.
Fair enough.
I use that on every score.
Next up, we have Mr. War. Oh, Mr. I'm changing your name, sir. Mr. Marr.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I want to take this opportunity to explain a bit more about the cost increase that you saw on Mr. Elliott's slides with regards to increased premiums for insurance, increased costs, for insurance premiums for the town. In looking back and doing some research on this matter, it came to my attention that I don't think anybody here has ever stood up, at least not in this term of council, and explained to council what you're getting for your money. And so that this report attempts to cover that off and answer also the question that council had, two questions that they had. One was to come back with additional information to this committee regarding budgetary matters, and also the question about details about the town's legal expenses for liability claims and insurance coverage as well that was requested by council earlier this year. And what I've gone through here in the report just to give a bit of background about who the players are, particularly in this matter: the insurer, the underwriter, the adjuster, and town staff and external legal counsel, but also to explain what the town's insurance coverage buys you. Currently, we have 6 general areas of town insurance coverage. There's municipal general liability, which makes up the general bulk of our premium cost. And that provides coverage for general bodily injury and property damage that may be caused by the town's actions or inactions, and it also covers liability attributable to public officials. That's kind of the traditional director's liability insurance. We also have excess liability for large losses, losses that are over $5 million. So you could imagine a catastrophic event taking place. The excess liability is there to provide protection for the town. Environmental impairment liability provides specific coverage for environmental damage or pollution that's caused by the town or impacts the town's property that's caused by a third party, so that we would not be stuck with the cost of cleaning up what could be significant environmental damage. Automobile insurance is fairly straightforward. It's what you all know. If you insure your car, well, the town needs to insure its fleet, and we have coverage for that as well. We also have property and crime insurance, and that's property insurance for the town's building and facilities. And that covers everything from this building to the SARC to the AFLC. And that also covers things such as fire damage, burglary, crime, and boiler and machinery. And finally, there is a small portion of our insurance coverage is for municipal officials' accident. This is your accident, death, and dismemberment coverage that is provided for in council's remuneration bylaw, and this covers things like accident, death, dismemberment, the same things you would get if you're traveling, for example, and you were in an accident. This would provide coverage for that type of incident. So for 2013, the total insurance premium was $363,488 plus PST. Tax is PST applicable. There is no GST, which means there's no HST. PST in this particular case is not refundable, so PST does form part of the costs, and is a driver for why Mr. Elliott pointed out there's a $75,100 increase that's being requested tonight for insurance coverage. Currently, we have a $10,000 deductible on general liability, environmental impairment, automobile, and property coverage. There's no deductible for excess liability, municipal officials' accident, or acts of crime specifically. But there is a $10,000 deductible, and I want to come back to that in a moment because that's important for what myself and for what the delegate after me from BFL will be speaking about as an option for council to reduce its costs. So we saw last year we have the total was $363,488. Municipal general liability made up the bulk of that cost at $198,225. Our excess liability was $28,500 in terms of premium. Environmental impairment was $19,238. Similar costs for automobile. Property crime was $96,287. And municipal officials' accidents, $1,440. A relative bargain compared to the rest of our coverage. For 2014, what we're hearing as the best price available from BFL after speaking with a number of underwriters is $515,508 plus PST. This is for the same $10,000 deductible that the town has today. And we're seeing a number of increases. There's an increase in municipal general liability. That's going up to $326,895. Excess liability is also increasing, $40,500. Our environmental impairment liability is staying the same, but our automobile has slightly increased to $20,574. Our property as well is increased to $106,861, and thankfully our municipal officials' accident has remained the same for 2014. So this in total is $152,020 more than the past year. This is a 41.8% increase. And so the question obviously is why? According to BFL, there's a number of reasons, and there's not one specific reason that we can point to as we could say, if we only did this, then we'd be able to save ourselves money. It's a difficult situation for every municipality across Ontario, but especially for Aurora. And we saw property and automobile rates remain roughly as is, but there was an inflationary increase, and so that's a driver. Our 2013 policy term was based on the town having a population of 45,000. That's not accurate. The town has a 58,000 population as of this year, and that's what the insurance premium for general liability was based upon. That's a 28.9% increase in our population. That also equated to a 28.9% increase in our general liability premiums. So it is a one-for-one increase in terms of population to general liability premiums. We also saw a hardening of the insurance market, and premiums increased across the market to handle a number of large losses and payouts that were affecting municipalities. And this is where we can talk about joint and several liability. If a municipality is even 1% responsible, so somebody who is a plaintiff could be driving drunk, speeding down a road, there is a branch covering a sign that says stop, and the person blew through the stop sign, hit another person, killed both passengers, and their parties, their families want to sue the municipality because the stop sign was obscured. A judge could find them 99% negligent and the town 1% negligent for having branches not trimmed properly and obscuring a stop sign. The municipality would be forced to pay the damages claim that is made by the plaintiffs, even if they were drunk, speeding, 99% at fault. And that is a difficult position for every municipality to face. And it's responsible for some of the large losses that we've seen of late, and it affects the market. And until there is change, and there is legislative change in the works, and AMO and the province have been working together on that, then this will always be a risk factor for insurers to consider when they set our premiums. And it is a difficult cost that every municipality has to bear, and one certainly that the insurance market is becoming more aware of. And unfortunately, it trickles down to the property owner. So for somebody to say there is no impact, it is a near victimless crime for somebody to come back and ask for increased awards and costs for damages suffered by them, well, it's not. Ultimately, it falls on the taxpayer. Property tax rates go up because insurance premiums are affected. And so this is a difficult thing, and we've seen it. It's affecting Aurora. It's affecting every municipality that is not self-insured that has to deal with this matter. And finally, as was noted previously by the Director of Customer and Legislative Services, there's been a number of losses that the town has been a part of and certainly has had to pay out for ranging from 2008 to 2013 regarding general liability. And we had a loss claims ratio over 1, which means that the amount of claims plus amounts held in reserve exceed that portion of the insurance premiums paid for general liability coverage. Now, it's been trending in the right direction, which means we're paying more on premiums than we're paying out in legal expenses and claim settlement amounts in the last few years, and that's a good thing. And the insurers are aware of that. I mean, there will be up years and there will be down years, and overall, it will flatten out, and we should come as close to possible as to 1-to-1 ratio as possible. But there have been a few difficult years in the past, and I think we've been working towards risk management strategies that have assisted in limiting our liability and bringing that cost ratio down to where it should be, which is below 1 or as close to 1 as possible. Now, BFL has approached town staff with a number of options for reducing our premium costs. And one of those options they've discussed is raising the town's deductible rate. Right now we have a $10,000 deductible, as I mentioned, for general liability. The discussion is, should the town be increasing the deductible to $25,000 or even $50,000? And so in the chart I've shown you on page 5 of the report, there has been a decreased cost in our insurance premium. If we had a $25,000 insurance deductible, we're looking at a premium of $461,094. If the insurance deductible was $50,000, we'd be looking at a premium of $418,094. So on the surface, this seems like a great deal. All we have to do is increase the deductible and we're fine. But staff decided that in itself is a quick and easy, dirty analysis, not really sufficient for determining what the true cost is to the town if the deductible was raised. Because the reality is municipalities will have claims against them. Municipalities will be sued. That is life in reality for municipalities. We have kilometers of roads and parks and sidewalks and all those other things that people can trip and slip and fall and sewer back up and all those other things. And so what we have done is we provided an analysis of that. What would happen if we increased the deductible, which meant that what would happen if the town became responsible for more of those losses up front before the insurance kicked in? And so staff spent a lot of time and looked at all the costs that were expended in addressing insurance claim. So we looked at fees for the adjuster, fees for external legal counsel, settlement costs where it was determined that the town was at fault, and the remaining exposure or liability based on the amount of the claim up to the deductible amount. So even if, for example, the deductible kicked in but a claim came in for $100,000, well, if our deductible is used up on adjuster fees and external legal fees up to $10,000, well, the town bears no more exposure. But if the claim, as I mentioned, is for $50,000, we've only spent $10,000 worth of legal fees and adjuster fees. If the deductible is $25,000, we've still got another $15,000 to go in terms of exposure. And that is a cost, a real cost, that we need to address because it's a cost we would not have had to bear today if the deductible was raised to $25,000 or even $50,000. So there is a chart on attachments 2, 3, and 4. And just not to get too much into the details about this chart, it shows the nature of the claim for each of the years 2011, 2012, and 2013 that we've had to deal with from a general liability perspective. And so you can see it's kind of the usual nature of municipal claims, slip and falls, sewer backups, damages to vehicle. Some of these, again, are claims that have absolutely no merit at all and have been dealt with as such. But there is a cost associated with dealing with these claims. An adjuster has to go out, review the claim, speak to the parties, speak to town staff, and determine whether or not the claim has any merit, who may be at fault, and then advise both staff and the insurer as to what that fault, where it lies. And that's a cost, and that's an adjusting cost. If there's external legal, then there's a cost for that as well that will come out of the town pockets if the deductible is raised. Then there may be settlement costs determining the amount of the claim and who may be at fault. Remaining exposure, as I mentioned, based on how much of the deductible has not been used. And then we also calculated staff time. A little bit unique because I can appreciate the council might look at staff time and say, well, that's staff time and it's a cost and accounted for. But the higher the deductible, the more staff time has to be spent dealing with the matter because that means the insurer is not picking up the cost. So if the deductible is $50,000 and a claim comes in at $30,000, that means that the insurer is not going to be getting involved. Staff have to spend the time, together with adjusting costs, to deal with whether or not the claim should be settled, the merits of the claim, any external legal help, etc. And so we have to try to calculate that to give council a good idea about the true cost of this. So as you can see, when we've done the analysis and looked at everything, looking even at the reduced premium, and we've calculated out the reduced premium rates for 2011, 2012, and 2013, you can see that raising a deductible in 2011 to $25,000 or even $50,000 actually would mean an increased cost to the taxpayer with regards to insurance coverage and providing coverage for claims. $63,000 more expensive, even with the reduced premium rate, and $116,000 more expensive. In 2012, we saw very small savings for if the deductibles was raised to $25,000, a $2,000 roughly savings, but an increased cost of $21,000 for if our deductible was $50,000. And finally, in 2013, we saw a similar kind of pattern here. You're raising your deductible to $25,000, the costs increase by $20,000, and a $50,000 deductible means costs are increased up to $80,000. And so when we did this analysis, we realized that deductible might mean a savings, at least up front, to premiums, but overall to the town, it means an increased cost, which means an increased impact on taxpayers, whether it be this year or next or going on in the future. And that's not even calculating in what we have right now operationally as quote-unquote reserve, although not a traditional reserve that Mr. Elliott will talk to you about. Right now, the town budgets $50,000 for settling and dealing with claims below the deductible limit, and $25,000 for dealing with adjuster fees. If the deductible is raised to $25,000 or even $50,000, those amounts will have to increase because we will be dealing with more matters in-house. So that $50,000 we set aside for settlement of claims below the deductible might have to be increased 5 times more to deal with a $25,000 or 10 times more to deal with a $50,000 deductible. And that's, again, a negative impact and makes it unwise, staff feel, to proceed with an increased deductible in this case. And so I think that the end result of all this, when staff had a final chance to take a look at all this, was it's not really, unfortunately, an option for the town to move ahead with raising its deductible this year or at least in the foreseeable future. We could always look at it and revise to see if premiums are better, or at least we could do more as a staff level to mitigate our losses. But for this year at least, and again for this foreseeable future, the deductible rate, it would be wise to leave it at the $10,000 amount, and it did not provide the savings, unfortunately, that we would have hoped for. Of course, there is another option that I've put down in the alternatives that Council may consider going out with the other N6 municipalities to do an RFP in 2015. We have a meeting with the other N6 municipalities for February 21st, and we could certainly explore that option with them and see if they'd be willing to, but I'm in Council's hands to see if you want to do that. There is no specific time frame to do that next year, but it would have to follow the following year due to our 5-year arrangement with the insurer. So it is an option to advance that schedule and move ahead in 2015 with an RFP and see if we can get a reduced premium. But for this year at least, that does not seem to be a viable option. It would be an RFP would take too long in the process, and we'd be looking at May or June before we can get one out, and the cost savings don't seem to be there. We still require insurance coverage for at least the balance of the year. And so with that, staff are recommending that there is an increase in the budget to cover for the increased insurance premiums for 2014. As Mr. Elliott noted in his report, we're looking at $75,100 to the tax levy and $7,000 to the water rate for a total of $82,100 over the already budgeted amounts for insurance premiums for 2014.
Thank you, Mr. Marr, and thank you for that detailed analysis. That's very well done. Appreciate that. Can I please have a motion to receive Mr. Marr's report? Councillor Peary, Councillor Humphreys. Comments or questions for Mr. Marr? Councillor Peary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess, for me, I can't help but compare this to insurance you'd pay on a car. And I don't disagree with you. I'm just trying to get to the reason behind the numbers that we see. Is it a fair assessment that if you're paying insurance on your car, you might not get in an accident, and that's why your rates, it makes sense to go for a higher deductible. But with the municipality, you know that at some point throughout the year, you're going to be looking at lawsuits. So that's what the major difference is?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah, that's correct. I mean, as a car insurance, automobile insurance, we all know, you take your increased deductible if you have an older car, for example, when you're thinking about comprehensive insurance, because you don't care if somebody steals it, fine, whatever. But if you have insurance from municipality, you know we're going to get claims. That's a virtual certainty. Whereas you're driving around, you hope with carefulness and good driving habits, you're not going to, and that's the gamble you take.
Councillor Buck, Thompson, Humphreys.
Mr. Marr, it was within the last 3 years this municipality, along with the other 5 of the 6 northern municipalities, signed a contract with a new insurance provider. And we signed, what year was that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe that was 2011. Sorry, I believe it was 2011 when we did that. Back in, yeah, it was 2011.
2011, and we were informed it was a good news because of our negotiations with 6 other municipalities. The insurance premiums in that year actually went down. There was no increase. And that was the result of a competitive bid. And we were told that the insurance coverage was exactly the same. We weren't losing anything in coverage. And the reason the insurance premiums decreased was because this company wanted to get into the municipal business. They wanted to break into the municipal insurance business. So they bid a lower premium than we had been paying. We actually saw a decrease in insurance premiums that year over the previous year. And now, before the end of the contract, it wasn't an annual contract, was it?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. It's not necessarily an annual contract. I mean, we have our insurance we renew every year. Whether we choose to renew it or go out for an RFP is our choice, but we basically have a 5-year commitment in what we've done when we send out our RFP that we would.
Councillor Buck, you're not perhaps confusing the BDO, the accounting. We switched accounting firms, auditing firms, pardon me. And
no, we switched. I'm fairly certain, Mr. Mayor, it was insurance.
Yeah. I'm going to go. Mr. Garvey, can you help? It's an important comment.
Just for clarity through Mr. Mayor, we've been a client of BFL since 2007,
That's
2008? Right. 2006. So the N6 initiative didn't change anything for us, but we did save a 10%, one-time 10% reduction in our rates because the whole group collectively. And there was, in terms of wanting to get into municipal business, I believe that was the BDO model. They wanted to expand their municipal business.
Does that help, Councillor?
So the question is, Mr. Maher, municipalities always have had to have insurance, and things don't get cheaper. Obviously, the premiums have to increase to cover the higher costs of claims. So we expect that. And my question is, $80-some thousand increase in annual premiums strikes me as a very substantial increase over the previous year. And I would like to see a comparison between what were the normal increases prior to this contract as opposed to what we're looking at now, and what are the significant differences in the claims that have been processed that would justify that. When figures are recited to me for more than 2 minutes, you kind of lose my attention. It doesn't make any sense to me unless I'm sitting looking at figures in quiet contemplation. I can't get it when somebody's just talking to me about them. So I would like to see a comparison between what our regular increases were as opposed to this. What percentage of an increase is $82,000 over the premium, the total premium? And how does it compare to previous increases? What is exceptional? What is so exceptional about this year that compels you to make a presentation to Council to explain the huge increase in the budget?
Thank you, Councillor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, well, to the last question, actually, I don't think it's ever been done before, as far as I can tell, that Council's never had an explanation about insurance costs. But for 2014 and to 2013, the cost is not an increase of $82,000 or $80,000 you suggest. It's actually $152,000. We had budgeted for an increase of roughly $70,000. It turned out to be double that. And I think that's It's a fair question to ask, but I think that why this is the case, and I think we've tried to address it in the report. There are a number of factors. Certainly this is, as far as I can see, a historical increase for the municipality. We haven't faced increases of this magnitude as far back as I could go, certainly not as long as we've been with BFL. It has not increased to this level. And as I mentioned, there are a number of factors for that. You saw general hardening of the insurance market, a lot of large losses that are shared across underwriter pools of underwriters, and you've also seen our increase in our general liability claims that have impacted our rates. And those are all together work to increase our rates by 41.8% this year. We've seen increases across other municipalities in the N6, but they're seeing increases somewhere between 15 to 25%. We apparently are the largest increase this year based on increase in population, general liability claims, history. All those types of things have been drivers for it. And that 29.8% increase in population certainly did equate to a 29.8% increase in our general liability premium. And that premium portion is a large portion of the overall insurance cost. And that's a large reason why we're faced with a large hit today.
Councillor Thompson, Humphreys, and Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Mr. Marr. I think just going back to that point, I do remember what Councillor Buck is referencing to, and the N6 initiative. I mean, we went out; it was an RFP process in which we scored the various applicants based on those premiums and experience of the team and all those different things. And so, I think back now that perhaps one of the reasons why they may have scored well, I don't know all the details, is because of that error in calculation based upon our population, because the range was quite wide in the report that was presented to us. And it would be interesting now to go back and retake a look at that and see how that may have impacted the decision-making process, because that mistake may have led us to choosing them, and now the situation's sort of reversed. Had the accurate numbers been put forward at that time and we made that decision, I'm not sure if we necessarily would have come to the same conclusion at that time. So I think maybe it does fall to us to revisit that scoring approach, or revisit that whole RFP process and say, would this have made a difference in our decision-making process?
Councillor Humphreys, Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And in line the same as Councillor Thompson, 41.8% increase, and I understand, it looks like based on the population, we're trending positively otherwise. So kind of a difficult sort of story to accept. I mean, we're doing better, but because you have more population, we're going to increase your insurance by 41.8%. I think any other increase by any other insurance company or vendor or whatever that we work with at 41.8% needs a whole lot more, I believe, explaining. I don't think, from what I see, and I've got the list here, we're doing okay. There's something in the marketplace, increase across markets, and a number of large losses, payouts. Looks like from a trending perspective, we haven't had any huge anomalies that would cause that increase. So I'm really concerned. We've really taken a big hit here unexpectedly. To Councillor Thompson's point, that maybe the wrong population numbers had a huge bearing on this increase, but I'd like to ask BFI to help us out here. If they did a mistake, if the numbers were inaccurate at the beginning of the whole scoring process, is an opportunity to revisit this and maybe come up with some sort of agreement. I mean, this is huge money for them and us. So, as an insurance company, and again, we took that Northern Six initiative to try to get the best of both, amalgamation with the municipalities. They've got all our business, and to do this is, I'm not too thrilled with it.
Councillor Abel.
Well, thank you. Well, Councillor Humphreys, I'm not thrilled about it either, but what are we going to do? One exercise would be to increase our deductible. Another would be to put it out and see if there are better bids. But there's a correction that had to be done. And the population was through you, Mr. Mayor, was at a population of 40,000. That's what our quotes have been based on, and has been now corrected because the population is at 58,000. Did I get that clear?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the population was, a previous premium was based on a population of 45,000, and the 2014 premium is based on our correct population of 58,000.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, what year were we at 45? Would that be at the beginning when we were talking 2006?
I would I would probably say. I mean, we've looked back. That would to me be pre-2B subdivision numbers.
Okay.
Given what I understand about the development of 2B,
so we were at a higher rate than other municipalities, and one of the main drivers of that is because of general liability. And the reason our general liability went up was because of the correction in the population. Was part and parcel that.
That's part of the reason why.
Another reason is, and you said there's this ratio. So it's a way of the insurance. If you could kind of explain that to me. So for example, if they're paying out liability and expenses, and they weigh it against what they're collecting, there's an imbalance. So is that going to come back and be corrected, and that affect our rate as well?
Through Mr. Mayor, that's the hope, at least, that it will have less of an impact on future increases. I mean, we've seen, if you look on the chart in attachment number 1, the updated chart shows numbers at December 6th. You'll see that we've had an increased number of insurance claims under our liability insurance, including amounts held in reserve. 2009, 10, and 11 were difficult years where we had more paid than we were out than we were paying for insurance premiums. And over that period of time for which BFL has been our insurance company, that gave a negative effect or a claims loss ratio over 1.0. And when underwriters look at us as a risk, they look at that and they say, well, they seem to be paying out, we seem to have to be paying out more than we're taking in as a group. And so that will negatively impact our general liability insurance premium, similarly to the population, as I mentioned before.
Similar to the population. So there would have been an increase of liability payouts because we're a bigger town. It makes sense that there be more claims and more payouts.
That's correct. Theoretically, the more people you have, the more likely you are to have claims, more people slipping and falling, more sewer backups, etc.
And so that is one of the three parts of the general liability, which is for injury, the other is for damage, and the other is directors.
That's correct. There is a small portion of that for directors and officers liability insurance. It's not a large component of our general liability insurance premium. We didn't break it out specifically, but I mean the bulk of it, the large majority of it is dealing with general liability and property damage claims.
Okay. So if we're engaged in lawsuits here, that's not affecting our premiums and insurance? That wouldn't be part and parcel of the 41%?
Through you, Ms. Mary, yes, it would be. It forms part of our general liability, at least for some of the claims that you would have seen here, listed in attachment number 1.
Which I don't have. So if I can be specific, Councillor Buck is in a civil lawsuit where we're paying for 6 councillors, ex-councillors, and our insurance is paying for those court costs?
Mr. Marr, do you want to answer that in open session?
Well, I mean...
fair question, Councillor Abel, I understand that, but Mr. Marr?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd rather not elaborate too far. It's obviously an ongoing case, other than to say it's publicly been disclosed previously that, yes, there is insurance coverage being provided.
For their legal representation in this matter?
That's correct, for the defense's legal representation.
And now to be similar, if someone came forward and charged me with something, it's as a director or a councillor, we have to protect elected officials against that. That could be leveraged so rather than personally absorbing it, there is contingency insurance for that if that does occur. And it's practical. What I mean is it was something in the course of work rather than something you did on a personal matter or on a holiday. Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would always recommend that every councillor have directors and officers liability insurance provided through our insurer. It makes absolute sense to do so, and if we didn't have it, I would strongly recommend that we do.
And we do have that?
Yes, we do.
Thank you. I think that's all my questions. Just wanted to sort of get a feel for what it is. Oh, is there ever an amount that the insurance, through you, Mr. Mayor, would tell us how much they would say, on this matter, we spent this amount of money on this proceeding, whether it be for injury, damage, or directors? Do we get that sort of thing so that we can look at it and go, okay, so this is going to be a year where that ratio doesn't work or vice versa. There might be might be less. Would that be information provided?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it would be, but as I mentioned, getting that type of detailed information is quite a lot of effort on the insurer's part. It's quite a lot of effort as well on our external legal counsel to have them provide that information, provide updates, etc. And for the purposes of what we're discussing here tonight, frankly, isn't particularly relevant, but it is something they can put together, but it just requires a lot of staff and external time to deal with that.
All right. Well, I appreciate that that we're now finding out that this year's one of the tax issues that we're considering is $152,000 in our insurance premium going up, and that's a pressure that we have to deal with, and we have all kinds of pressures. And I appreciate how Mr. Elliott lets the people know very simply what it is that affects and drives tax rates. Because if we didn't have that, people could assume that we're wasting money or we're not doing our due diligence or staff isn't doing things. It helps. It helps when you're open and explaining how our rates are affected as compared to other municipalities. We're not alone. We're all under similar sort of pressures.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gallo and Councillors Buck and Thompson. And
Thank you. Just not to belabor this point, but just so I'm clear in terms of the population issue. So in 2013, it was estimated at 45,000, and obviously that wasn't accurate. So we brought it up to the accurate figure in 2014. And I'm not interested in going in the past because it is what it is. I'm just trying to figure out who would be responsible to update those numbers, and going forward, how do we make sure that those numbers are accurate? So who's responsible for making sure those numbers are accurate?
Mr. Mark?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I know that the 2013 policy the price was based on $45,000 population. That was determined by BFL. I'm looking at the delegate, and I apologize, I'm not throwing you to the wolves, but...
Actually, I just wanted to make a comment.
I think it should be on the microphone.
Could you come up to the microphone, please?
Through Mr. Mayor, basically the population...
Closer to the...
Sorry. The population is through the municipal directory. So we look at the municipal directory, and that tells us what the population is. So when we originally started working with the town of Aurora, we based it on the population back, as you were discussing, in 2006. So
okay, I don't want to be rude, but I'm going to, because Ms. McLeave is coming up with a delegation, it might be more appropriate to ask her that question at that point, if I may. Councillor Gallo, if I could ask you to hold that. And then when Ms. McLeave comes up to do her presentation.
Unless it wasn't her responsibility to update those numbers, that's fine. If it was someone else's, then I'd like to know. If our information is correct, then I'd like to know that.
Through Mr. Mayor, I think the best thing to do, it's certainly the staff doesn't update the municipal register. I think Ms. McLeave can answer that question. Okay. May come forward. And if you have any further questions after that, I'm happy to help you out. Okay.
The other, in terms of the deductible, and if you could just help me go through the chart and make sure I'm understanding it correctly. Even on the first one, if I look at the chart, am I to assume that each one, the nature of claim, that if I go across, it's the same issue, and we're comparing it to our current deductible of $10,000, and then going to the right, if we had a deductible of $25,000, that would be the result. If we had a deductible of $50,000, that would be the result.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. Just to take the first one on the 2011 insurance liability page. So
why don't we go to the third one down, sewer backup, because that was one that...
There was a sewer backup. There were two claims as part of one particular. So there were two incidents of a sewer backup for one particular claimant. That's why it's mentioned as times two there. So in total, the deductible would have been $10,000 for each claim and incident made. So that's actually a bit of a difficult one to
All right, so let's pick another one. That's
the best one I would suggest, maybe just in terms of following along and seeing the increased costs, or if you go down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the seventh one down, it's a slip and fall in 2011. Yep. And again, not talking about the matter in detail because it is still transferred to external legal. But you'll see there, if we had a $10,000 deductible, as we do now, our total cost is to the town is $12,944. So our adjusting cost, you see, is $37.29. That's how much we paid adjusters. And $824.26 is how much we paid for external legal. And then we still had a remaining exposure for the claim amount to the tune of $5,446. Plus staff spent a significant amount of time trying to deal with this matter and talking to the adjuster, external legal, etc. So that's why you get that total cost. It's a $10,000 deductible plus the $2,944 of staff time. If we had a $25,000 deductible, that total cost increased to $28,239, because you'll see the adjuster cost and the external legal cost remain the same, but our exposure increases because the claim is for a significant amount of money. And then we also spend a little bit more staff time dealing with that. So there is a 10% increase on staff time we estimated for dealing with matters with a $25,000 deductible. If you continue to go across, you'll see the same thing here. The exposure increases to $45,446.74 because, again, the claim is so high. And so the total cost of the town that we would have been responsible for is $53,886. And that's just one example of how an increased deductible can suddenly can turn a small matter that we're only responsible $12,000 for to a matter where we have to spend $53,000 just to defend it.
So could you, not to belabor this, but I just want to understand it. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 from the bottom. Slip and fall.
Right.
In the $10,000 deductible, there's a $5,000 exposure. The other numbers are the same in the others.
Right.
In the 25K, there's a $5,000 settlement. And then in the 50K, there's a $5,000 settlement.
Sorry, so in that particular case, there was a settlement amount of $5,000. Sorry, the exposure there for the $10,000 deductible, that's showing at $5,000, actually turned into a settlement amount of $5,000 had we had a deductible that high, and we eventually in that particular case did settle out for $5,000. And so that's why you're seeing that across the board. In that particular case, if we had a higher deductible, it wouldn't have made a difference. We would have had a settlement amount of that much. And the reason why you see it as an exposure for $10,000, but actually as a settlement for the other two, is because that is an exposure that we would have had, we have, even though the matter is closed, an offer made potentially to settle for $5,000. Whether we would have done it or not is a matter for a different and more detailed discussion about that particular claim. Had we had a higher deductible, staff would have recommended that we just settle the matter for $5,000. Ultimately, on that particular file, it would not have resulted in any impact if the deductible was higher. And so those small ones is great. I mean, if we only had small ones like that, I would say to the council, increase the deductible to $50,000, $100,000. But it's the ones, like I mentioned before, that are seven lines down. It's the ones that could turn from a $12,000 claim to a $53,000 claim are the ones we're really trying to capture and account for in this chart.
Councillor?
Well, I'm not entirely convinced, I'll be honest, so I'll spend a little more time on this and just to wrap my head around and make sure I understand it. Sure.
Councillor Gartner, and then I'll go to Councillors Buck and Thompson.
Thank you. Through Mr. Merritt and Mr. Marr, Councillor Abel was speaking about something before, which was the ongoing legal costs for the ongoing trial. And actually, under purpose of the report, in your second paragraph, that is exactly what that motion from December 10th was, because that was starting to get discussed at the table, and that's why there was a motion that we have something in closed session. And that's why it was on the pending list.
Oh, I see. Through you, Mr. Mayor, my apologies. When I read the closed session, when they read the recommendation, it mentioned closed session. It didn't speak to anything particularly about one particular case or another, and so I took it to mean all cases in general. It wasn't specific to one particular item.
Yeah, there was starting to get the fear that too much was going to be discussed at the table, so that really should be back on the pending list, or should stay on the pending list.
Anything else, Councillor? Okay, Councillors Buck and then Thompson.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Marr, I'm not able to accept the explanation of a difference in the population figure as contributing in any way to these increases in premiums. The population, you've said that the insurance premiums are calculated each year, and the difference in population in any given year, and particularly at that time, was certainly not 11,000. The insurance company had the figures of the previous year, and that would be over 50,000. They didn't drop to 45,000. That's obviously a juxtaposition of figures. It's not a calculation. So I'm not able to accept the error, what appears to be an error in the calculation because of the population, as a reason for the increase in premiums. With respect, Mr. Maher. And following up on Councillor Abel's question about coverage for councillors who are being sued, I feel there is, you answered his question by saying that councillors would be advised to carry their own insurance, personal insurance, to cover themselves in the event that they might be sued for something they did in the course of their duty. I think that was the inference you gave, the wisdom for council to carry their own insurance. And that's always good advice to anyone, Mr. Mayor. But I don't want, and I've been advised by my lawyers not to touch this question. At the same time, I just can't allow an impression to be left with councillors that they are, in fact, covered by town insurance. A report was submitted to council at the request of the former mayor in the early part of June 2009.
Yeah, I think Councillor Buck, I think we're straying.
Well, we may be straying, but it's relevant, Mr. Mayor. I don't think...
Well, it might be relevant for a different discussion.
No, the question is, where did the change occur? A report was requested and submitted to council indicating there was no insurance coverage for council if they were sued. At some point, obviously, that changed because councillors are
okay, hold on. Let me go
covered.
to
When did it change,
Councillor
Mr. Maher?
Let me go to Mr. Maher.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, again, I'm going to tread carefully here because there is an ongoing case, and I don't want to, frankly, I don't want the town or myself involved in it. Insurance coverage is at the determination of the insurer. I assume that they speak to their own legal counsel to make that determination. That is not my decision. It's not the town's decision. It's the insurer's decision to provide coverage. And so it's just a general answer to that specific question. It's the insurer who determines that on the advice of their solicitors, whether or not there's insurance coverage available. If it changed, certainly before my time, and I don't have any personal knowledge of what happened with that. So I hope that satisfies.
Seems to be going sideways. I think the question is, are we covered by insurance? Is that too simplistic?
To you, Mr. Mayor, yes, you are. I think the point I was making earlier was that the municipality should always have directors and officers liability insurance coverage for councillors, given the nature of your position.
Which we do.
Which you do. If you choose to have your own personal insurance to cover off that as well, that's totally fine and up to each and every one of you, and speaking with your own legal counsel as to the risks you want to bear sitting as a councillor. But the municipality does provide you with directors and officers liability insurance coverage. And it's wise
Thank you
to do
very
so.
much, Mr. Maher.
This is an issue that has received a lot of media coverage.
Okay, well, we're not going there right now, Councillor. This is not relevant to the discussion here.
Well, it is relevant
Councillor?
because I think
thank
the
you. We're
councillors
moving
may
on.
have
Councillor,
a misunderstanding.
We're going to move on, and perhaps we can deal with this at another time. I don't think it's relevant to this discussion.
I think it would be wise for each councillor to clarify what the situation is for themselves.
Thank you, Councillor Buck. I can go to Councillor Thompson.
Through to Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin, in the alternative recommendations, you speak to the possibility about going back out, talking to the N6 and going back out in 2015. You may have mentioned it early in your presentation, but why can't we look at alternatives on our own for 2014?
Mr. Marr?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The difficulty with that is just a time frame. We are right now end of February. If we were to go out for an RFP at this particular stage, we're probably looking at trying to arrange and organize that with our N6 and get an RFP out, probably looking at a month to 2 months, then another month period where the RFP's out, and then some time to evaluate it and then bring it back to each particular council and this council to decide. That gives us, we're already at that point probably in May or June before we could have something to council with the new option, which may not be necessarily cheaper, but we would find out. And so we'd already be halfway through the year at that point, so it's a little bit late at the stage.
So it's not contractual, it's more logistical, really?
That's correct, yeah.
Just a quick question about the contract. Is there no provisions in there for ceilings with regards to increases or anything like that? Sometimes, otherwise there is a limit, or at least it blends it out. So is there no provisions? I mean, the adjustment can be any amount. It could be 100%, so be it.
Mr. Marr?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, not that I'm aware of for municipalities, no. There is no cap.
And just the final question, should the N6 wish to, because of this increase or whatever, reopen or go out to the RFP again, is there, I guess, a clause like a force majeure that allows us to walk away and break it due to this unexpected event?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, sorry, just to be clear, are you saying that could we break this particular insurance coverage and move on with the next? Through Mr. Mayor, I'm looking at BFL. I'm sorry, she's looking at me like, you don't do that. No, we would pay for the coverage that we have. Right now we're on month to month, although we know we have an invoice outstanding for that to get coverage from somewhere else. We certainly could speak to BFL and make arrangements for partial coverage, but we would still have to pay a portion of this year's premiums.
Sorry, I was looking to 2015.
Oh, 2015. To 2015, I mean, we haven't signed up for 2015 yet. We haven't locked anything in, so the opportunity is still available for us to find another contract if we so wished.
So even though when we went through the RFP process that it was a 3 or 4 year with an optional extra year, it's still every year it's renewable, and so that it's not binding in a long-term contract, so to speak. We can still have that decision annually to exit.
Through Mr. Mayor, that's my understanding. Our rates were based on obviously being with them for 5 years, but I mean, my understanding was that if we want to advance the process, we certainly could do so, and it's an option available to council.
Any other questions for Mr. Marr? Councillor Gallo. Oh, I'm sorry. I had Councillor Humphreys and Councillor Gallo. My apologies. You're looking at me like, what about me?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry about that. Just 2 quick questions. When we initially amalgamated with the Northern Six and became part of this, and I believe there was I can't remember what that savings was. Was it close to about $70,000 or $80,000? Do you remember? Anyone remember?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Mr. Mayor, no, I apologize. I don't know. Other than our premiums didn't go up in 2011, they actually, I think, went down a little bit because of that. I think there was a 10% savings overall for having all 6 municipalities with BFL. So there was some cost savings there on each of our individual municipal contracts.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I remember that distinctly. I thought it was great. It was a great idea. We amalgamate. We're going to save money because they have the business of all the surrounding municipalities. So for me, this is a really big win for BFI. And then today we're at 41.8% increase in 1 year. I lost my train of thought. I was going to ask another question about, I can't remember now. My apologies. There was one other one. I may remember. That's okay.
Councillor Gallo.
Just along the lines of if we could have gone out to tender for this for 2014, at what point did we, I probably should know this, but at what point did we know what this increase was going to be?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would believe it was in the last month or so. We had an estimate, but we didn't get the actual amount, I believe, until the end of December, beginning of January or so. Yeah, around that time period.
And when does the coverage start?
January 1st.
So we would have got a quote either the end of December for a January 1st start and an increase of 40, whatever the percentage is?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's my understanding. I apologize. I wasn't part of those conversations initially, so I'm just going by memory and what I understand.
Clearly, that does not make a hell of a lot of sense to me. and it certainly puts us in a very difficult position. And it's, quite frankly, unacceptable. It's shocking that for a January 1st start, we got to get mid or end of December. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, I do this all the time, and that never applies to me. And I would never go to my customers and suggest a 40% increase and explain to them, well, I just got it, and now we have to deal with it. It just doesn't make sense.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to add to that, I think from a staff level, my own perspective, having picked up the file as well and speaking with the clerk, I think we both agree completely. We don't like the way this was done this year. Quite a shock to us to get the quote that late. We prefer to see a staggered amount where the term of the insurance is not at the same term as a calendar year, so we have some time to deal with that if that's when we're going to get quotes so late. And if we go out again for RFP in 2015, we're going to look at having different dates, because certainly other municipalities in the N6 do have different dates, and I think it makes sense to do so, just for budgeting as well as for expectations for council and for citizens.
Councillor?
Just a follow-up. Last time I checked, we are the customers. And why we would wait till the end of December to get those figures is also beyond me. Why didn't we ask in September? Or did we?
Through Mr. Mayor,
maybe there's no one at the table that can answer that, but it's a valid question. Why didn't we are the customers? Why didn't we ask for that?
Through Mr. Mayor, I don't know if I can answer that honestly. The person who you could ask is not at the table.
Mr. Garvey, do you have any indication?
Mr. Kirby?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not aware of that. I can't provide you anything with that answer.
You've already been twice. Councillor Humphreys, you did say you had...
My apologies, Mr. Mayor, my last, just earlier through Mr. Mayor, Mr. Marr, you mentioned that, our increase seemed to be the highest of other municipalities. Do you know what the other municipalities' increases were? Were they substantial, or are those sort of confidential and left to each of their own municipalities?
Through Mr. Mayor, not confidential. I have a rough idea that, like I said, between 15 and 25%. Ms. McLeave might have those numbers on her, or not. But I know there was somewhere between 15 and 25%. We were the highest out of all the municipalities.
Any other comments or questions for Mr. Marr? Then everybody's spoken. Most people have spoken once. Everybody's heard twice. We have pretty much discussed Mr. Marr's report as well, inadvertently, but he didn't really have a presentation per se. So if someone would put Mr. Marr's report on the floor, and we can vote on that at the same time as well as Councillor Humphreys and Peary. Thank you. All in favour then? Contrary? That's carried then. Thank you very much, Mr. Marr. Now, Ms. McLeave, are you ready?
I'm as ready as I can possibly be.
We might need to get you a bulletproof vest.
You might, but that's okay. I think there's...
Okay, Councillor Buck, please.
Just to introduce myself, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Town of Aurora staff, my name is Robin McLeave. I'm the Vice President of Insurance and Risk Management, Public Sector Division at BFL Canada, and I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here this evening. I did forget my bulletproof vest, though. So I had something prepared, but it's changed a little bit, obviously, with the different conversations that we're having. One of the things that I can say, since the N6 went out to tender, at that time, the municipal marketplace in Ontario was still reasonably soft. We were finding with all our municipalities it was as is, sometimes lower, sometimes a bit higher based on their claims experience. Since that time, though, however, the market has changed substantially and it started to harden substantially. There are two reasons for that. One, joint and several liability, which Mr. Marr did discuss. And I know that AMO is actively working to change the 1% rule, but there has to be a will for change. And that will is basically if you have a person who's been badly injured, paraplegic, quadriplegic, there's no other pocket for them to draw from, that person has to be made whole. You change the joint and several liability, and that basically means that person may not be made whole. So there has to be a will to be able to say to that person, because of that change, we're not going to pay you the money that the court has decided that you're worth. There's also been some recently very large losses that have been settled, and the Deering sisters in particular has been settled since the N6 went out. That loss ended up being a $20 million plus loss. Municipal insurers hadn't contemplated at that time such a large loss. There were 2 women, they became paraplegic. It was cited as road design. It went all the way up to the Supreme Court of Canada, and it wasn't overturned. There was a loss with the United Counties of Prescott and Russell. That's a $9.6 million loss. There's the Ford M case, which basically a young man blew through a stop sign due to road design. He lost control of his car. He was drinking, impaired at the time. That resulted in a $5.5 million loss, and that's currently under appeal. The town of Leamington has experienced a $1.8 million loss, which the town could find themselves in the position of as a slip and fall. And then you have a trail claim that's $1.9 million. So losses are going up, judgments are going up, more money is being paid. So this has impacted the municipal insurers in Ontario. And again, this has been a major change since the N6 went out to tender. So basically, insurance companies have to collect enough money to pay their current losses, to pay anticipated losses, and to pay expenses. So insurers hadn't anticipated that they could potentially pay a $20 million loss, which any Ontario insurer could find themselves in the position of paying. And that has greatly resulted to a change in the marketplace since the N6 went out. How has this impacted the town? Well, the main impact in the insurance and the increase is a combination. It's a combination of a change in the market, a hardening in the market. Yes, your population has gone up. I wouldn't necessarily refer to that as an error, because basically over time we always look at the populations and we assess the population. We go through the municipal directory, we look at those numbers. So because there was such a significant change in the marketplace and the marketplace hardening, insurers were taking a much closer look at populations, because based on your population, that means there is a greater potential that you could experience a large loss. So it's a combination of, yes, your population has increased, a combination of, yes, the town of Aurora has had losses, the insurance company has paid out more than what they've collected, and the general insurance marketplace. So when an insurance company decides on your municipal liability premiums, yes, they look at your population, they look at your municipal services, fire, police, water, your streets, your maintenance, all those sort of things. And they also look at your risk management philosophy. What are you doing as a municipality to protect yourself against claims? Are policies and procedures that are being set by staff, are they being met? Are staff working actively to meet the minimum maintenance standards? Are they transferring risk at every opportunity they have to third parties through contract language, certificates of insurance, and waivers? And the importance of record keeping. These are all things that municipal insurers are looking at to decide and work towards looking at the town of Aurora and what type of a risk is the town of Aurora in combination with every other municipal that we work on at BFL. All of this is taken into consideration. We believe at BFL, over the years of working with the town of Aurora, that we've created a strong partnership with your staff, and that we're working with them to mitigate any opportunity for loss. And that's done through creating as many as possible learning opportunities for staff, working with them to work with your staff of the importance of record keeping. That can really make the difference between a good record between whether or not you're negligent, you're not negligent, or the level of negligence that can be assigned against you. Continuously discussing risk transfer methodology. Keeping you apprised of changes in legislation, large losses such as the Deering sisters, such as the Ford M case, annual loss control inspections, and to assist them with the implementation of a user's facility program. So yes, I do agree this is a very difficult time for the municipal insurance place. It's a very difficult time for the town of Aurora. I don't know if this gives you any comfort, But we have gone through various tenders with various municipalities, and we've always been successful pretty much with keeping our municipalities. And we've also were successful with several new municipalities starting January 1. So that leads us to believe that as difficult as this situation is for all of you, that we still feel that we're doing our very best job to keep the premiums at a level that are reasonable and that are sustainable for municipalities across Ontario. Thank you very much.
Could I first have a motion, please, to receive Ms. McLeod's presentation? Thank you, Councillor Buck. Councillor Perry, second. And Councillor Perry had his hand up. Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could we just go back to slide 2 for a second?
Or you would like me to go back to slide 2?
I wanted to make sure your firm doesn't underwrite for all of those different cases, do they?
No, actually, we can say that we're fortunate that we haven't been faced with such a large loss, but there's nothing to say that we can't be at some point in the future.
That was just one point I wanted to make sure of. And with regards to the population count in Aurora, I'm not sure if I'm angry that the numbers were wrong for so long. It's like if you have an MPAC assessment and the value of your home is much lower than what the actual value of your home is, but they charge you your taxes based on what your MPAC assessment is. So once the MPAC assessment goes up to what the appropriate value of your house is, I can understand people getting frustrated or angry about that. But is it a fair assessment of what you're paying in that circumstance? In this circumstance, I don't like it, but I think it's pretty fair. So those were just the 2 points I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillors Buck, Gallo, and Humphreys.
Thank you for coming this evening. When the East Gwillimbury Mount Albert Fire Hall burned down last week with all of the town's fire equipment, firefighting equipment, I immediately thought, oh my God, that's going to be some claim against the town's insurance. And what kind of an impact is it going to have on our insurance? Will it have an impact? You give us a bad news tonight that it will have an impact.
Well, no, you can't really look at that per se, because basically when you look at your own property, you look at your own property schedule, what your values are. So that would be more assessed on what your schedule is and what the potential loss is. Liability is a bit different because it's such an unknown. Your property schedule, you know, if you have a building that's worth $1.5 million, you have a total loss, you're going to be paid $1.5 million. The chances of your entire property schedule being wiped out, or 3 or 4 properties being wiped out at one time, is very unlikely. However, liability is very different because it's very much an unknown. It depends a lot on judges, what judges believe that loss is worth. It depends on the age of the claimant. It depends on how many individuals are injured. A large driving factor in the Deering loss was the fact that the young girls at the time of the loss, one was 16 and the woman that was driving was 20. So you have to take into consideration that you're going to be taking care of that person for the rest of their lives. You take a look at, you could have a 21-year-old man or woman with one income, their own independent business, and suddenly they can't provide for their family. So you have 3 young kids that have to be taken care of for the rest of their lives. If that person's a quadriplegic, they have to be taken care of for the rest of their lives. So the anticipated loss, it's just very difficult to really understand what is the absolute ultimate potential in the liability loss. It's a very much an unknown.
Councillor?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Marr left me in some confusion about coverage, what we're paying for with our premiums. What we understand is our coverage. When Mr. Marr answered one of the questions, it seems that the insurance company is able to exercise an option about whether or not they will accept or deny a claim.
I wouldn't refer to it as an option. Your liability policy is a contract. So the terms and the condition are clearly outlined in every policy. So basically for members of council, they have very specific coverage for them, which is your legal expense, but you also have available to you errors and omissions. So if it doesn't fall within the terms of a legal expense claim, then you have the opportunity for errors and omissions, which could be things like libel, slander, personal injury. So there are two options that members of council can be covered, but it is a contract, and there are terms and conditions, and there are specific exclusions, and an insurance company must honor that contract. So they can't say, I'm going to cover this claim, but I'm not going to cover that claim. It's all contractual.
So,
Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If there was a query made in 2009 about specific coverage, and the answer from the insurance company was negative.
Okay, once again, Councillor, we're straying from... This is really a discussion that you should perhaps have offline with the insurance company.
Mr. Mayor, it's not me that's paying the premium. It's the town that's paying the premiums.
I understand that, Councillor, but...
And the increase of the premiums is
we're not
what
going
we're trying to
Councillor Buck, we're not going to go
tonight.
there.
So you are able to exercise options?
I'm not quite understanding with exercising options other than to say if there was a loss and the circumstances of that loss fell within the terms and conditions of the policy, then the insurance company must honor that loss.
So if it was denied on one occasion and then accepted?
I can't speak to that.
Councillor Buck, once again, it's not appropriate. Sorry, this is not an appropriate line of questioning. Councillor Gallo, Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a similar question I had before in terms of the population numbers, and I understand. Well, actually, I don't understand, and I'd like to understand how and who goes about establishing those numbers.
Basically, what we look at is we look at the municipal directory, and the municipal directory tells us what the population is. So we look at those numbers when we're assessing population. Going back on that comment, as I said earlier, the reason that the population has become more relevant is because of the change in the marketplace and the insurers looking at the increase in population with the understanding more population could translate into more opportunity for claims. So up to this point, population has played a factor, but not as an important factor. But when the market changes and the market turns, insurance companies start looking very closely at what their exposures are, what they could potentially be assessed against. And again, with looking at such a large loss, any insurer could pay that loss. So when a market hardens, an insurance company looks much closer at all of their risks and their potential for what they'd have to pay.
So I get that number should be accurate because that's what you're reflecting the policy on, and if it's gone up, it's gone up, and it makes sense for the premiums to go up. So what you're telling me, in 2013, somebody looked at the directory and it said 48,000. And then we looked at 2014 and it said 58,000? Obviously, we didn't have an increase from last year to this year to that extent.
I'm honestly going to say that it's not a direct science. But basically, I know that the municipal directory doesn't necessarily change every year. And when the insurance company assesses and they look at population, this particular year they look more closely at the population. So up to this point, the town of Aurora has actually been in a position where the population hasn't been as much of a driving factor in the increase in your premium, or looking at your premiums as pretty much remaining as is until the last couple of years with the market changing and the market hardening.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, who establishes the municipal directory?
I don't know. That's not my. That's just a tool that we use. Everyone has access to the municipal directory. It gets published every year.
Okay. On slide 3, it speaks to what you're looking into when considering the liability premiums. And that last bullet is municipalities' risk management philosophy, and there's a bunch of questions there. Are you able to expand on those in terms of how did we do? Are policies and procedures set by management being followed? Are they? Are staff meeting the minimum maintenance standards? Are we? Our staff activity, the list is there. Are you able to expand on that? How did we do?
Basically, just to backtrack a little bit, because the market has changed so much, and because the market is hardening, insurance companies are taking into consideration a municipality's risk management philosophy, and that in turn will assist with when we're looking at various rates, because some municipalities have a worse loss history, better loss history. So the municipal insurers want to get a sense of what is the municipality doing to control and mitigate their losses. So these are some examples of what they would look at as an insurance company based on their knowledge of what municipalities are doing. I can say with the town of Aurora, I've been working very actively with the staff over the last couple of years, that we've had various seminars. They brought in a lawyer specifically to discuss minimum maintenance standards. I believe that staff are very actively working with us, and that's where we believe that we have a strong partnership, that we are all actively working together to assist the town of Aurora with their risk management and their risk management philosophy. And this has been an ongoing and continuous with staff.
Okay, so we're all working together, and you've been helping out on that, but how did we do?
Well, basically, for me to say how that you do, all we do is we work together and we find tools, and then as time goes on, and with your claims experience, I mean, your claims experience has been reducing. I believe that staff are very committed to reducing their losses, and with experience with insurance and premiums and the marketplace is not going to go away anytime soon. That's the reality that municipalities are currently facing. But I can say with the town of Aurora and the work that I've done and the various emails and the various things that I've been asked to look at, that it's in the forefront and it is important to them.
So our level of commitment, how did that affect the premium? Where would you put us on a scale?
I would say that because of your commitment, that the increase that you experienced could have been much greater if you had a worse loss history, larger losses, larger payouts by your insurance company. So the fact that staff are working with risk management initiatives, that would tell me that that's contributed to the claims history that you have. Some things are completely out of your control. Some things you can do nothing about. But for things that you can control, like transferring risk, good record keeping, all of those sort of things, in the end, and it's not until you actually experience a claim that you can really see all the work that staff's been doing.
Okay, Councillor.
Okay. And in terms of understanding the timing of all of this, could you help me understand when did we get a good idea that we were going to get a 40-plus increase in our premiums? When did the town receive that?
There basically is a process. We look to the town to get the underwriting information that we require. Once we have the underwriting information, then we look to providing premiums. Yes, this year has been a difficult year. It's unfortunate. Staff did their very best in getting the information to us that we needed, and we did our very best to work with staff to look at the increase. We went several times back to the marketplace. We did our very best to get as much of a reduction as possible in the premium. to increase your deductibles. And what I can also say is that what other municipal insurers are doing is not only are they imposing increases, they're also imposing increased deductibles. At BFL, we're not doing that. We're doing our best to work with the municipalities and their financial constraints with the deductible that they believe that they can afford, and then with the potential to try and give them enough savings so that they can move and have a higher deductible. And if that's not feasible, then as I said, we did our best to try and get the premium reduced at your current deductible and to make it more financially feasible. Unfortunately, when you went through the analysis, it was discovered that it wasn't necessarily worthwhile, but in those previous years as well, you were in a soft market. So during a soft market, premiums pretty much remain as is. You don't see large increases in your liability premium. You mainly see your increases with your property and your auto because your risks have changed. Your property schedule has gone up. You have more automobiles. So that would be more of the increase than the liability because the liability rate pretty much remained as is.
Councillor?
So when did you communicate to the town of that increase?
I believe, to be honest, I can't remember correctly, but I believe it was close to the end of December, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Humphreys, Thompson Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I really appreciate you coming out here, Ms. McPhee. And I do understand the market changes and hardens, and there's some excruciating circumstances that does merit the direction of insurance companies and what they need to do to protect themselves and the municipalities. With that being said, what I'm hearing is we're doing all the right things and we're trending downward, yet our increase is 41.8%. The population increase, isn't that a significant impact on why this has gone up? So I'm just having a tough time in understanding what our personal rating is as a municipality, town of Aurora. Normally, and I could be wrong, I'm not very familiar with municipal insurance and how that works, but isn't there sort of you take a look at our history, they're getting trending downward. Yes, the marketplace is pushing us up here, but it sounds like our town is the highest hit with this market hardening at 41.8%. And the other municipalities are 15, 20. So just have a real problem with that. Personally, we're a smaller municipality than some of our neighbors, and we're getting the hardest hit, so the pressure's on. And at this late hour as well for us. And I just would like to understand, because it says here, what does your insurer take into consideration when assessing liability premium? The population, then all these standards beneath the risk management philosophy, are they? So is there and probably someone on your staff would do this, that they do checklists and get proof, and you're an A municipality or a B. I don't know. I don't hear what our rating is. I feel like we're doing what the market is suggesting the insurance companies need to do, and here we go, Aurora, you're at 48, whatever it is. So I'm just a little concerned with the ambiguity. I wish there was more specifics as to why we're getting hit with this increase at this timings, whatever it's happened. Now we have to deal with it. And is there any opportunity to work with our staff again to see if we can lower that increase? I'm just really concerned of the 41.8%. I'm stuck on that, maybe wrong or right, and I have to ask the question or I wouldn't feel comfortable just letting it go. So I don't know if there's an opportunity there for you to re-rate where we fall, and is this as good as it's going to get?
So I can't, through the Mayor, I can't comment on the other municipalities or what their increases are. I can only go back and I can only look and I can see. When the municipalities, when they renewed back in July of this year. That was basically what they were faced with at that time was the beginning of the change and the beginning of municipal insurers changes in the losses and looking more closely. We also worked very hard because we felt that the market that we had at that time was not really understanding the impact on the municipality. So we actively went and we sought a new market. And we believe that the new market that we found in July actually had an impact on reducing the overall increases for those municipalities. You are renewing 6 months later, so there's even an additional time to digest these very large losses. And I can't really emphasize enough how much a $20 million loss can really impact a municipal insurer. For the town of Aurora, I know that that number is a very difficult number. We understand that, and it's for that reason that I can honestly say we worked very, very hard in discussions with staff, in discussions with the municipal insurer, in discussions with understanding the impact of that increase, because this is not a surprise to me. I can honestly say it is not a surprise. I don't know, obviously, that may not be giving you any comfort, but I can say that I went back actively week after week explaining the town of Aurora, our long-term relationship, our partnership, the fact that, you do a lot of good work for your risk management, discussed all of that. So in a sense, that's actually made you one of the better risks than some other municipalities that have experienced very large losses as part of our program.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the feedback and the comments, and I have no doubt you worked very hard with staff to get us to this point, which is why I had to ask the question to understand that from your perspective. And in terms of, I guess, just timing is everything. And this is just when our policy renews. And I guess the other municipalities, when they renew as well later, may be hit with this market hardening as well. And increases may look different from their perspective when they renew again. So thank you very much. That's all I have right now.
Councillors Thompson, Peary, and Abel.
The last few questions sort of answered my questions around process and why such a late hour. So I'm fine.
Thank you. Councillor Peary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to the delegate. Ultimately, would you say that this is something that's driven by your insurers, the reinsurers?
Sorry, say that again, sorry?
Well, ultimately, this increase, would you say it's something that's driven by your insurers, so what's commonly known as the reinsurance market? Because every company is underwritten, every insurance company is underwritten by an even bigger insurance company. Mm-hmm. So if this hit's been taken somewhere, mm-hmm. ultimately I think it would be the reinsurance company that's paying for it. So is this an attempt for the reinsurance market to recoup, which ultimately increases your premiums, which ultimately increases our premiums? Is that a fair assessment of the situation based on the losses that we've seen?
It's a difficult question to answer, because when your insurer uses reinsurers, my understanding is they don't necessarily use them for everything. Your primary insurer is the $5 million limit. Then you have your excess insurers that make up the balance. Whether you're a reinsurer or whether you're an insurer, the philosophy is the same. You need to collect enough premium dollars to pay what you have on the books, what you anticipate to be on the books, and to cover your own expenses. So with municipal insurers, now they have to contemplate that before maybe the worst loss could have been $5 million, could have been $10 million, they now have to contemplate they could have a $20 million plus loss. So they basically have to make sure, in order to maintain and be able to continue to provide insurance for municipalities, that they're collecting enough premium. The difficulty with municipality is, yes, you have the joint and several liability, but you also have you are a difficult risk, and that's why there are very limited municipal insurers that are offering this coverage. Municipalities have to provide a service. You can't say, I'm not going to provide water, I'm not going to clear your roads, I'm not going to clear your sidewalks. You cannot say that, These are things that you must do. And as a result of these things that you must do, you are more open to potential claims, and you're more open to potential large losses. So that's why municipal insurance is a more difficult risk, because it's not like you have 10 or 15 markets that are banging at your door and saying, I want to insure municipalities. Historically, there's been very few companies. There's been Cowans that have been doing it for years. There's been JLT that's been doing it for years. My associate, the person that's responsible for our department, Chris Sinardo, he was formerly at JLT, and he started the practice in BFL Canada. And since then, there's maybe one or two insurance companies that have come and gone. So from that perspective, that's what makes it more difficult. It's not like we can go to 10 or 15 markets and shop your account. That's why a lot of the municipal insurers have created a program, and by creating a program, the hope is that you create a volume of municipalities so that you can work to keep the municipal insurance costs to what would be reasonable. Unfortunately, with the circumstances over the last year or so, you've become an even more difficult risk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councillor Abel. We need to pay this. There is no option. I'm just trying to figure out why this is coming out, because I think it makes a difference. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this is great because sort of get an idea through the discussion what are the pressures and what's going on. Enjoy that. Typically for council, when we have pressures, we have to put that into assessment, and then we have to defend it or rationalize it, and the blame starts coming. So we like to look for the villain that we can portray that drove it. And, insurance, everyone deals with insurance. Everyone knows that insurance is going up. We heard that in some parts in Toronto, due to sewer backup during torrential rains, that they're not going to get insured anymore because the infrastructure is not supporting, and it's just an ongoing sort of thing. And that's what you talked to us about with managing risk and talking. Are you aware? We've had our service levels examined. I'm quite confident with the idea that we could have been charged more had it not been for that you discovered that it could have been a lot higher than the 41% increase that we got. Timing and Mr. Marr said if we were staggered, that would be the one thing that we would ask, so that we could stagger this in the summer and not have to deal with it at year end. Just now, something happened in December that you said we have to harden the market. And that's primarily to these lawsuits that you have. And so my thoughts are that the 1% is a very mitigating liability that we have to cover under the municipalities. And I just want to sort of get a handle on it, and I think the illustration you had on the second slide spoke to it when you said there was a $5 million Fordham where the driver was impaired and ran a stop sign. And now, so for me, and this is my question, you talk about 1% liability. So if a person is drunk driving, his insurance isn't going to cover it. I think it's null and void if he's impaired. I don't think there's many for personal driver's insurance. So now 1% suddenly becomes the town, that one little percent that you're liable for, and we know how aggressive courts and lawsuits can be. You're going to cover, because no one else is covering it, you're going to cover the whole claim, $5 million. So it's not like $5 million was 1% of a $500 million settlement, and the $5 million was in municipals. It was because there was no other people to attach to, and then the judge said, well, here we got 1% here, which we can always have. We'll always be able to get it doesn't matter what, the sun, whatever. And this is a great way to get people looked after. And so they should be entitled. But saving that, they would have to go to the personal of the drunk driver and attach the $5 million there as well. But why go that route when there's much more resources in a municipality with insurance? So is that sort of a fair comment, that 1% allows that open door, which you have to settle, and you have to pass that on into our premium?
That's correct. Basically, if you're only 1% liable, you're paying 9%.
Is the microphone on?
Oh, I'm sorry. So basically, if you are only 1% liable and the court deems that you have to pay the full loss, then your insurance company pays that loss. They pay the full loss, whatever you are required to pay.
And that's what you're showing us here. Mm-hmm. So if I were to explain to the residents, like this is an incredible amount due to growth, also to the hardening of the market, and these speak specifically what has transpired in the last 6 months, and that you materialized and said, okay, who's the first one to get the bad news? It's going to be 60% if they're not at good risk management. Oh, okay, so Aurora's better. They're 41%. And Councillor Humphreys alluded to it. Maybe when everyone else's premiums are coming up, and they're going to see something similar along, like a huge escalation. Is that a fair comment?
I can't really comment on how the renewal is going to go for the other members of the N6. That process hasn't begun. That hasn't started yet. We'd be in the process of collecting information for the municipalities to provide them with their renewal terms. But yes, all the things that we're talking about this evening, all of those will also be taken into consideration for the municipalities and their individual losses.
So for me to say to a resident, they would say, well, that's unacceptable, 41%. Did you try other bids? And you've explained to the process how you've gained some, and how it just was the timing and the growth and all those things put together. But really a big part of this is what we're seeing with these claims is significant. Mm-hmm. And what was soft before, but these all just came, and so now it comes down. So a good explanation would be, 1% liability is a major factor driving this cost going up, along with growth. Is there something specifically that Aurora has more claims than anywhere else that is alarming that we should know about? That if you said, well, if you didn't have this, it would have only been 30%. Is there anything along those lines you could say to us?
No, I couldn't really state that definitively, no.
Okay, thank you.
I apologize, I missed this. Why did you say Aurora was one of the better risks?
Basically, the town of Aurora, yes, you have had losses. That is true. But because of our various work, with staff and their commitment to risk management and risk management initiatives, and the strong partnership that we feel with them, that we can discuss with the municipal insurers, that we believe that the town of Aurora is actively working to mitigate their losses, reduce their claims, and that was part of the advocating on your behalf, is how strongly we felt about all the work that you were doing at the time of your renewal.
Thank you. So going back to a question we had earlier with respect to Aurora's risk management philosophy. So can you say that policies and procedures set by management are being followed?
I can't say that myself. That's basically more of an internal staff issue. That is just a general comment, not necessarily directed to the town of Aurora. It's just a general comment that because the market has changed and because it's hardening, that it's important that municipalities practice good risk management, because that just makes you a more attractive risk than a municipality that's not practicing risk management. They continuously have frequency or severity in their losses. It's almost like your own driving, in a sense, if I can equate it to that. If you have lots of speeding tickets, or if you have had one, you rear-ended somebody, and you've had 10 speeding tickets, your insurance for your auto goes through the roof because your insurer believes that you're a bad risk. And that's what drives your personal auto premiums, and the same thing with your home. With municipal insurance, it's not as direct a correlation, but because of what we're seeing in the marketplace, and because we don't anticipate that the 1% rule is going to change anytime soon, and because judges are awarding higher payments when many times we're all shaking our heads and we're not quite understanding why they're getting paid what they're getting paid because someone's doing something they're not supposed to be doing. But part of moving forward for all municipalities, because of the changes in the marketplace, if you are practicing good risk management, you're seen as a good risk and you're going to be more favorable and you're going to be receiving more favorable terms.
Okay, thank you. This is Ms. Marr's responsibility, so I'm going to ask her to comment briefly on that because we've all had the question. And so Ms. Marr, if you could please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, with regard to the items that Ms. McCleave was talking about in terms of risk management, we have been working with BFL actively, and we have had external come in actually that was responsible to work with the Ministry of Transportation in terms of establishing the new minimum maintenance standards. We had him attend with our staff and do a session with us to ensure that we were doing and were aware of what was going on and we're doing what we needed to in order to prepare for that, not even once it was in place, but we were getting ready for it. So we were proactively working with regard to that. We've also had BFL come in and do some driver training for our employees, of which all of this training, by the way, is of course mandatory. And part of the record keeping that Ms. McCleave refers to is the fact that they have to sign in when they attend the training so that we do in fact know that they're there. And so all of those things go to the fact that Ms. McCleave can take forward to the companies that she's referring to. We've also been told by external counsel, and unfortunately they have had to represent us at the table in some cases, that we do in fact have very good record keeping, and we have in fact been able to limit our exposure due to that record keeping. So staff is very much aware of that. Ms. McCleave also indicated that we have her or BFL refer different clauses and find out what sort of things we need to incorporate into agreements or tenders or RFPs that they go out, and what sort of limits that we should in fact have established in order to transfer that risk in case anything should happen. The other thing, and lastly, that we do that I can think of off the top of my head is the fact that when something happens, if we have an agreement in place with those clauses that we proactively put in, that we can simply say to a resident, unfortunately, yes, you have had an accident, but because we have this clause in this agreement, the contractor is actually responsible for us, not the municipality, because it does in fact have a clause in there that transfers that risk to them. So I would be happy to bring back a more thorough report, Mr. Mayor, if you should wish us to do so with regard to some of those.
I think that would be very beneficial. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councillor?
Would it be appropriate to make that motion?
I don't think we need to. Ms. Marr will just bring back that report.
Thank you, Ms. Mahar. That was exactly the answer I was looking for.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor of receiving the presentation? Contrary? That is carried, Madam Clerk. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time tonight.
Welcome. Thank you.
And it hardly hurt at all, right? It hardly hurt at all.
Oh, no, not at all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your time.
And we've done Mr. Marr's report. We did that in conjunction with his. So we have item 30, which is the funding options for the Aurora Historical Society increase, and one housekeeping matter. If someone would first of all put that on the floor, please. Councillor Humphreys, thank you. Is there a second? Somebody? Would someone second that, please? Councillor Thompson, thank you. Mr. Elliott, can you help us with this, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With respect to where we stand with this and our presentation of numbers, the percentage increases that I included on my slides earlier tonight include the full $20,000 as a tax pressure. And so it's part of that increase. Tonight, this report is asking Budget Committee to provide some direction with respect to the funding of AHS. I've looked at this and I've suggested that the $20,000 is in two parts. One is for inflation, which to me sounds like it would be a permanent increase. and so therefore it probably should go to the tax. And the other half is for, as I understand it, primarily for the educational outreach program that Council heard about several weeks back. And that program perhaps is tentative. It may or may not take off. Council may choose to fund it this year to see how it goes, and if it looks like it's a big success, continue to fund it, or you may choose to fund it only 1 year. And so I'm suggesting that perhaps you consider funding it either through your contingency account, similar to last year, or if you think that it's a longer-term commitment that this council wants to signal, perhaps it's a political signal of intent to fund this program long-term, you could put that on the tax as well. So there's a couple of options there, and I leave it to council to make the direction. With respect to the other housekeeping matter, I'm fairly certain that it was the intent of committee, having had the discussions around this position, to approve it full-time. It was approved indirectly through the resolution of committee, but all of the other positions becoming full-time were separate resolutions. We'd like a housekeeping resolution as shown on the screen if that was indeed council's intent, committee's intent.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. First of all, to the Aurora Historical Society, would anybody care to put something on the floor with respect to that?
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, but I didn't hear what you just said.
With respect to the Aurora Historical Society, Mr. Elliott has suggested that the $20,000 increase that was approved a week ago, no, 2 weeks ago, that half of that be with respect to the tax levy and half of that with respect to, I'm sorry, the council contingency?
That's correct. Currently, it's all in tax levy, so if that's the way you wish to leave it, there's no specific direction needed on this. If you wish to change that, I'd like to hear a specific direction. And part of me says half contingency, the other part of me says tax.
Councillor, does that help?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I don't want to waste my 2 opportunities to speak to any issue, so I'm waiting because I missed this presentation of this budget and hoping that someone who was here and had the presentation will offer some kind of a rationale as to why we should continue to support, financial support for the Aurora Historical Society. Why we should be giving them any money at all.
Thank you, Councillor.
Maybe somebody would like to explain that to me.
Anybody else care to speak to this particular topic? Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. From a high-level perspective, some of the points that the Aurora Historical Society suggested this increase was to help them continue the work that they're doing at the Hillary House. They're under some extreme pressures. They have had to cut back resources, staffing. The curator is now at part-time. They have some very heavy financial burdens at the Hillary House, and they are trying to do what they can to keep it together. I could be wrong, so please, whoever was here, please step in and correct me. And I did hear that they're going to be meeting with the Federation, or they're exploring options to try to see what they can do. They need some help. And they're very straightforward about it, and they're reaching out to whatever resources they can to try to keep and maintain the Hillary House or come up with alternatives. They're in some dire straits this year, so they're looking for support to get them through while they try to get on a sort of a get well or health plan to try to figure out what they need to do to run the facility the way it needs to be run. That's what I heard, but if anyone else wants to add, please do.
Councillor Perry.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I didn't recollect that they're looking to improve their efficiencies. I understood that they were looking for the same $50,000 that they were in the past. In addition, they're going to be continuing a program that was started last year, which is the educational program. And the other rationale provided by council was that this sort of looks like inflation, so we can give them an extra $10,000 for inflation. But I don't remember that being part of their ask or their rationale. But I could be wrong on that. So ultimately, you know, I admit I might have come off a little bit harsh at the last meeting. You know, my preference would be to see the organization, you know, spend some of this money to make sure that they don't lose any more money. But again, I can reiterate my point that they lost $15,000 3 years ago, $30,000 2 years ago, and last year another $45,000. And I'm not sure that the plan that they presented leads to any form of financial stability or sustainability for the organization. And so, you know, I think if the money's coming from anywhere, I do agree it should come from the tax levy. So I'm happy to see that's where it's coming from right now. But I don't think we should be providing them any money that ultimately we know, or we don't know, but we can assume based on their past performance, they'll be using their reserve funds to stabilize themselves again, and I'm not sure that's what we should be funding. So, Councillor Buck, I don't know if either my recollection or Councillor Humphrey's recollection has helped you out, but you know, I really don't. I don't think we should be supporting this organization in this manner again.
Are there any other speakers to this? In that case, all right, do you wish to speak, Councillor? Yeah. Second time.
I'd like to speak against providing additional funding or any funding at all to the Aurora Historical Society, Mr. Mayor. This is a volunteer organization who owned the Hillary House. We don't own the Hillary House. They own the Hillary House. It was purchased by Murray Koffler and given to them. They're responsible for its management. They operate, they put on fundraising events during the year. I am not interested in making any kind of a critique of how they go about raising funds to support, or how successful, or the merits of any of their efforts to become, for that house to be self-sufficient. But clearly what we're hearing from Councillor Humphreys, it is not self-sufficient. They have not been successful in raising the funds to manage to provide what needs to be provided for that house. That is not my responsibility. It is not the responsibility of the taxpayers of Aurora. The town has never assumed responsibility for the Hillary House. We have in front of us an RPF from the Historical Society for the management of our museum. And I assume that will come with a price tag. So we're looking at providing them with that, I assume, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Elliott, is the regular $50,000 plus 20. We're looking at $70,000. And not only are they not able to be self-sufficient in the operation of the Hillary House, they take it upon themselves to come up with a new program, an outreach program that they don't have the money to pay for. And by the way, it's a museum program. It's going into schools for 40 minutes sessions, teaching children about artifacts and how to manage and take care of artifacts. That's how it was described to us. They're not able to manage the responsibilities they currently have. And yet they're taking on themselves a new responsibility to educate the children in the community about museums and the care of artifacts. That is presumptuous at the very least, that they would anticipate and that any member of this council would support taxing, adding to the taxation, the tax burden of the homeowners to provide. We know this historical society has a membership of 100, paid up, I believe, a paid up membership of 100 people. At the last annual meeting where they were proposing to change the name because it's no longer an appropriate name, because they have withdrawn from all historical responsibilities, the museum and the collection. But they couldn't get half the membership out to change the name of the association, of the organization. That was 50. They couldn't get enough people out. They couldn't get 50 people out. And this is the organization that you're proposing to hand over $70,000 of the taxpayers' money. They have an executive board, and they have inside an executive board, they have some other kind of an executive body that makes decisions that the executive board doesn't have any part of. I'm not interested, really, in how they operate their organization, except insofar as we are being asked, and in agreement with, funneling $70,000 of the taxpayers' money into that operation. And then we're going to be looking at the RPF for the management of our museum, and we're going to be paying, if they're the successful ones, we're going to pay this organization to do what a few years ago was their responsibility as a volunteer organization. They raised funds in the community for the Church Street School, for a museum that they withdrew from. We don't have enough people. We only have 59 members. We can't fulfill that function. That was the explanation for withdrawing. And then the next thing they did was transfer ownership of the collection to the town in very poor shape and not fully accounted for. So they really have no responsibilities for any aspect of the town's history. Hillary House is theirs. The question of, will half the money come from the contingency fund? Where does a contingency fund come from? Isn't that the interest from the hydro assessment fund that we've cut $1 million down this year? Mr. Elliott, am I right in that what that contingency fund is?
Mr. Elliott? If I may, it's not the contingency fund is one of the accounts was the proceeds of the hydro. You're correct, but the account that I'm referring to is the operating contingency account, which is part of our annual operating budget, and it's $50,000 in the 2014 budget, and it's in the budget so that should circumstances arise throughout the year, council has a fund in which they can turn to fund any issue or assist other municipalities or any matter that comes before council during the year.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott.
Thank you, but until now we paid $250,000 for the sesquicentennial celebration. That came out of the contingency fund. That came out of the hydro reserve interest money that Councillor Thompson has successfully persuaded council that we would reduce our draw on that by $1 million this year.
It was actually $100,000 because they returned $100,000.
The whole thing was $1 million. Now we'll reduce it by $100,000, or was it $900,000 or $700,000? It started off being $1 million because that's what we received from.
Okay. Again, Councillor, I believe that you're mixing the fund and the account. The fund is the hydro money, and that's the reserve fund of the hydro money. and we draw from that to support our tax base, and there was a resolution to drop that from $500 in the original budget down to $400,000 now in the 14 budget. And the contingency account is the $50,000 that has been in our annual budget each year, and it is funded from, well, ultimately the tax base.
So my question is, Mayor, Mr. Mayor, when do members of council start connecting all these dots about the cut in available resources, about an increase to this operation, which isn't an operation that serves the historical function of the town anymore? They've relinquished that. They've surrendered that. That's our responsibility. And then we're looking at paying them, possibly, if they're the successful bidders for managing the museum, we're looking at paying them for that function. Is anybody really following the thread here? Don't you just love how I've adopted the language of the social media? I'm not in support of this, Mr. Mayor. I think this was the year of all years when this was the umbilical cord between the Aurora Historical Society and the taxpayers of Aurora was to be cut.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ballard, I believe you had your hand up. Is that correct?
I don't have anything to add this time. Thank you.
Councillor Peary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would only ask that we call 1 and 3 together and we separate the second clause.
Sure. We can do that. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Gartner?
I wanted to speak to the last one. Are we discussing just the Historical Society now?
Well, yeah, that's all we have been talking about is the Historical Society.
Do we want to finish that? I have a comment.
I would suggest that would be the way to go. Councillor Gallo on the
Just really quickly, my thoughts, and I don't disagree with a lot of the comments that are on the table. I just don't think that moving forward right now and cutting funding to that organization without any serious discussion by them, I mean, if that's the case, we've led them on all this time and all of a sudden we're going to say, see you later. And I'm not opposed to having that discussion. I just don't think it should be that abrupt. I don't think it's fair to them that it's that abrupt. But I certainly do want to have that discussion, and I share the comments of Councillor Peary and Councillor Buck and others. But I just don't feel that we should be doing it right now without proper discussions and a proper path.
Other speakers to the Historical Society. Councillor Ballard, then.
When the Aurora Historical Society came in front of us in our first term, I was very eager for them to come back to us with a long-term plan that would ensure long-term funding. That didn't happen. The second year, I made the same request to them. The third year, I made the same request to them. It is frustrating to me, because Hillary House is important to Aurora, that we're not seeing the long-term planning that I think is necessary to ensure the viability of that house. Yes, a certain number of members came and have presented other ideas for the use of not only that property but the two adjoining properties. But I think it's time, and I am a supporter of heritage. I'm a supporter of the Hillary House. But I think it's time that we start having that grown-up discussion with the Historical Society, that they have to get their ducks in a row, that unless Council sees a clear plan about how they're going to maintain that house, that we just can't continue to fund it. It may be that we have to provide some funding so that they can do a 4 or 5 year plan. It may be that we can work with them with some of our in-house staff. I'm not sure. But clearly the time is here for that long-term vision, that long-term planning, and it's just frustrating. I know the board is made up of volunteers. I know that old houses require lots and lots of maintenance, but I just get a sense that things are going from bad to worse, and I'm not sure how that's going to be reversed. I am in favor of one last year of funding, but in this year, I think it's imperative that we have a discussion with them to figure out where they're going in the next 5 years before they have no more money to keep that house going and either hand the keys to us and walk away or simply board it up and walk away. It's too important a resource to lose. So I'm in favor of one more year of funding, as I said, but I think this is the year we need to have a conversation with the Historical Society and figure out how we can work with them to sort out where they're going over the next 5 years.
Councillor Thompson.
I think each year we've had comments around the table, all of us concerned about their financial viability long term. We've all seen their struggles financially. We've seen their bottom line and the decreasing reserves that they have, and that's been ongoing. And we've asked them to do different things, and we've even offered to a degree to try and work with them and try and help understand it all. I think they've come with business plans in the past. They've not necessarily materialized the way they've hoped it would. They tried to address some issues, and they said, well, okay, maybe it's best if we just focus on one thing and we'll relinquish the collection to the town. And it was just last week that I believe that the chair of the board was saying that now they're looking at all options, including relinquishing ownership. They understand that they are in dire straits, I think, and that their reserves are now under $100,000, and so technically they need to turn this ship around this year. If they don't, I think that, as others have indicated, it's going to be very difficult for them to continue operating, and the town may have to step in, or maybe there'll be somebody else. Who knows? That's a conversation down the road. But I agree with Councillor Gallo in the sense that here it is February. If you don't give them, if there's no funding for them, they're essentially not going to be able to operate in the way they had planned or hoped to going forward. They have staff commitments and so forth. It wouldn't be fair at this point in time to deny all funding, but I think that we should continue to have those conversations to see how the municipality can help them turn their ship around, because year after year those losses are mounting and they don't have much left.
Councillor Humphreys.
Through Mr. Mayor, I won't add too much more, but in the same sort of vein, they're in trouble. They need help, and they came to us with that statement that they're reaching out and trying to figure out what they can do to turn around. They need help this year to be able to try, and it may be just as Councillor Thompson stated, maybe relinquishing the ownership of that amazing building that we get to enjoy. And I just feel, although absolutely it's a volunteer board or committee of the AHS that manage and run and own it, I believe there's some things that are changing there. I'm not sure that the plan they've been in the vision they have is sustainable. It obviously at this point is not. So this is the year for them to turn it around, or there's going to be some bigger issues ahead of them to try to keep things going. So that's it.
Any other speakers to this, Councillor Thompson?
Go ahead. I want to make an amendment.
You've already been twice. Councillor Thompson.
I'll just simply put forward the amendment that if the $20,000 budget increase is granted, that half of that be funded through the council contingency. As I've heard around the table, everybody is concerned and may relook at this if it were to come up again next year. So that $10,000 that's being used to fund a position for educational programs.
Okay, let's get a seconder.
Oh yeah, it's going to look
Councillor Humphreys.
So to me, as Mr. Elliott had indicated, that additional $10,000 may not necessarily be something that will be an ongoing. I think this is sort of a one and explore option, and so that's why I'm happy to fund it out of the council contingency for this time.
Okay, to the amendment, Paul, Councillor Perry.
There might not be any funding next year, so why don't we put it all in the contingency fund? I mean, we paid for this position last year. We're paying for it this year. I think there's the consideration that it's coming year after year.
To the amendment, Councillor.
That is to the amendment, Mr. Mayor. I don't think it should be coming out of a fund. If we're going to be collecting the money, it should be coming out of the tax levy. Okay. And taking out of our contingency reserve and lowering our contingency reserve to $40,000 doesn't make sense to me. I think this is an ongoing yearly thing. Clearly, if we funded the position last year and we're funding it this year, what basis do we have to say that we're not going to be funding it in the future? So, with all due respect, I don't think this should be coming out of our contingency reserve. If council wants to move forward on this, I think it needs to be done through the tax levy, because we've shown in years past this is something that we're going to fund. So we funded it last year, we're funding it this year. If there's concerns about not funding them next year, why not fund everything from that contingency reserve?
Thank you, Councillor Gardner.
I think this is a decision council will be making on behalf of the community, and as we are tasked to do that, I believe that the money should come out of the tax base.
Okay. Other speakers to the amendment, Councillor Abel?
I agree that it should come out of the tax base. I don't see any reason to go into contingency. I mean, it somewhat tempers the tax assessment required by $10,000. But I think in this case, it's not significant. It's not. I think the contingency is a stopgap when we really need it. I think at this stage in budgeting, we're down to the smaller items that we have to talk about. So on the amendment, I would just pay it all $20,000 off the tax.
Councillor Gallo. Councillor Buck and then Councillor Humphreys. Councillor
Could you
Gallo,
tell me
Buck,
what the amendment
Ballard.
is, please?
Madam Clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, half of the $20,000, if it is to be granted, to become out of the council contingency fund.
Councillor Gallo.
So, I want to speak to the amendment.
Well, it's not your turn yet.
To the amendment?
Yes. Councillor
I'm
Gallo.
out of turn. Okay.
Councillor Gallo.
I'm in support of this. I mean, it is coming out of our tax base. Our contingency fund is funded by taxes, and it's not a position. It's a program that they're putting on, and so whether or not it's going to be there next year, whether or not this whole thing is going to be here next year is a big question mark for me. Or in what form will this whole thing take? I think is going to be very interesting. But for the time being, I think we should do as we did last year.
Councillor Buck, Councillor Ballard.
My concern, Mr. Mayor, is not about the position of the program. It's about the organization.
Okay, well, that's not speaking to the amendment.
You are talking about taking $20,000 out of taxes and giving it to an organization.
No, we're not. We're talking about splitting the $20,000 increase, half to the tax levy, half from the council contingency fund. Is that correct?
It's semantics, Mr. Mayor.
No, it's not semantics.
It is certainly
semantics. It is
semantics.
not semantics, Councillor.
As so often happens, if I can't say it here, I have to say it elsewhere.
Councillor Ballard.
I agree with Councillor Gallo. I think the in the schools outreach project is a short-term project, and that I would rather see it coming out of our contingency fund so that if it comes back to us next year, we can examine it. Once it's rolled over into the base, I think we lose that opportunity to examine it. So I'll support dividing it in two.
Other speakers to the amendment? Councillor Perry.
I don't understand how, by putting it into the base now, we lose our ability in years future to look at this funding. Ultimately, this program ran last year, it's running next year, and in their reports, in their foreseeable future, it's running, for foreseeable years to come. It was my understanding that they saw this as a revenue-generating tool in the future as well, that there'd at least be some cost recovery. In my view, this is something that they want to continue doing. This isn't a one-year project. So again, if it's coming from anywhere, it has to be the tax levy.
Thank you, Councillor. Other speakers to the amendment? Councillor Gallo.
Just if I remember correctly, while we funded this last year from contingency, I don't think they ever even got started with this. They have a plan. They have not been in any school, so there's no even way of us judging its success unless we fund it, and I think we're all on the same page to fund it. It's a matter of where we're funding it, and to me, it's do I increase the tax levy by 10,000 or don't I? And I'm not interested in increasing it by 10,000.
Thank you. Other speakers? I think we've got everybody on the amendment, calling the vote on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment. Contrary. Okay, the amendment, is carried. Back to the main motion. Councillor Abel.
Mr. Mayor, I think what we've all alluded to, and I'll call it the white elephant in this whole discussion with the Historical Board, Society, and the Hillary House, it's the Hillary House. It is a property that has been given to the society that we have funded, not completely, and it's a national historical.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Your point of order, Councillor Buck?
What is Councillor Abel speaking to?
The main motion.
So we start again on the main motion?
No, we don't. We're back to the main motion. Councillor Abel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So my point is that we can have this. We had this discussion every year so far at budget. It circulates around almost the same conversation that they're operating at a loss. They're the guardians of the Hillary House. A few of the councillors here have been to the gala events to support them, sold tickets. Myself, I've been helping in yard cleanup, and it's a big job there. It's a great treasure, but it is solely the town's responsibility to look after it, to maintain it, and volunteers to help do it. So I think in the long run, Mr. Mayor, to sustain it, to keep it up, they're just barely keeping ahead of the drafts and the building and the keeping it fit. We have to really look at where the federal are going to get involved and assume some of the responsibility of something they declared a national historic site. At least it just seems to be a burden on us, and I think we have to appeal there at that level. We've fulfilled our responsibility and our commitment to it, and I think it's time we make that very clear and put it back into the federal funding models that are available to see how we're going to deal with this in the long run, how we're going to sustain this. And it's got to work in a partnership. So what we've seen so far has not worked. I think the general consensus is we're prepared to give it one more year. The program speaks well to go out to the children. I think it's fantastic. But it's something that we're doing. It's something that the town is providing, just like we do with the cultural center, just like we do with the library. So I'm in favor, and it's not great hearing the same concerns and with the same conversation. But we really have to look down the road. I think we have to make a concentrated effort, Mr. Mayor, to resolve who is going to care for this, if not solely the town. Let's exhaust every other method to see where we can go.
Thank you,
so I'll support it, but I think it should have come out of the tax base. But for $10,000, it's not neither here nor there. We have to show support. We have all along. It is a treasure. The town has assumed that responsibility. That's just something we're doing.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Humphreys, we're the second time on the main motion, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I think today for me, I support the budget for this group, the AHS. They are suffering. They're having some real problems. I know there's, Councillor Buck, I appreciate your perspective, absolutely. My concern is that the Hillary House is something that we all enjoy as community and residents. It is a federal, national historical site, and there's got to be ways around where we can get, where the AHS themselves can try to find ways to support this independently and sustain. What we're helping them with is merely staffing, some staffing costs. That's what I heard, and some of the programs, the outreach programs. But absolutely, it takes hundreds of thousands of dollars to support the bills that they get every year to just support regular maintenance in that home. And we all know how that can work. And it obviously what they have today is not sustainable. I heard a lot of information when they came to see us with their plan, and it looked like I heard it, I don't know if everyone else did, but they were in dire straits. They really need some help. And again, I look at this through history. We have supported them, right or wrong, from everyone's perspective around the table. $50,000, they're asking for an increased budget to keep the outreach program going and other areas of support. They're hoping to turn around some of the initiatives that didn't work so well last year. They focused on too many things. They're going back to focus on a few and try to make those very successful. And their goal is to become strong and independent. But I don't know how they're going to do. I really hope that this year they either turn it around or find another alternative. But at this point, I'm supportive of what's before us for this year, and I look forward to some changes.
Thank you, Councillor. Madam Clerk, I think we will probably just call the vote on this particular one and then go to the second item. Is that acceptable? Okay, I just want to, with respect to this, we'll be, the motion is amended. I support the funding for the Aurora Historical Society. If Council wishes to eliminate that funding, that's obviously Council's decision, but the appropriate thing to do would be to do that with fair warning to the Historical Society. It would be totally inappropriate to just take the funding away at this point. It doesn't give them any option whatsoever. It would be totally inappropriate, and, in my opinion, bad faith on our part. So if we truly wish to have that discussion and set direction for the Aurora Historical Society, then I would think that someone should be bringing forward a notice of motion sometime this term for us to start to enter into those discussions so that the Historical Society understands the gravity of the situation and where we wish to move with it. So we're just calling the vote on, we've already spoken twice, Councillor Buck, calling the vote on this. Well, it's okay. That's why I speak. That's why I keep tabs right here. We're just calling at this point, essentially, the first clause and the second clause. So the first two clauses. Just calling that, and then we'll go on to the second item. For me? You 1 and 3?
Yeah, just this one here.
Okay, all right. Well, we still have to receive it at one point. So just calling clause 2 then. All in favor of clause 2, as amended.
This is the budget committee approved the conversion of the part-time?
No.
2.
Item 2. Second clause. All in favor? Contrary? That is carried, Madam Clerk. Okay, moving to the special events assistant position. Mr. Elliott, could you please refresh us on what you said to us just?
Not a problem, sir. All of the other staffing positions that we've added to or changed, both in this past budget, or this 2014 budget and prior budgets, has been done by a separate resolution of council. And that goes to support our complement control processes. And so we've looked back through our minutes and we realized that although the Budget Committee approved the entire Parks and Rec budget with a change, and there had been some discussion about this position and an opportunity, therefore, for its deletion, we perceived that it was approved, and the intent of the committee was to proceed with making this conversion. However, we missed getting the separate resolution, and so as a housekeeping matter, if that was indeed the intent of Budget Committee, it shouldn't be too much issue for this committee to pass this resolution tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. So just to confirm, there's no impact to what we have already discussed.
That's correct.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for this, Councillor Humphreys?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Absolutely, I support this 100%, and I thought it was approved during our discussions, but thanks for bringing it forward.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. I did miss the January 11th talk about the supplementary taxes, and I was hoping that we could talk a little more about that tonight, although I've spoken to Mr. Elliott. But the basic idea is that because we're going to have a shortfall in revenue, we're going to take the shortfall out of the... I know. We're going to take it, if you would just allow me for a moment, we're going to take the money out of the stabilization reserve in the amount of $325,000. And I'm not happy with that.
We're not talking about that, Councillor.
Well, we are in the sense that I was hoping we could have a discussion around reducing some of our costs, and one of them would be to gap this position. So in light of that, I'm in favor of the position, but I'm not in favor of starting it as we expected to.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Perry.
So can I just get a little bit of clarification on what Councillor Gardner means when we talk about gapping?
It would postpone it,
but
so therefore you save some money.
There's somebody who's already working in this position, so gapping normally takes place because it's the time you take to do an interview, and prior to that time.
Can you help us, Mr. Elliott?
Through you, Mr. Chair, normally when we're adding a new position or converting a position, we do it mid-year. This particular one was budgeted from January the 1st. And so obviously we haven't done it to this date that I'm aware of. We ought not to have because it was not formally approved by council yet. And so there is still an opportunity to say we're supportive of this, but not until later in the year. However, my colleague, Mr. Downey, is not here to provide committee with any insight as to how that might affect his operations and in particular the special events that are planned for the community for this year.
Councillor? Okay. Other speakers to this item? Okay, calling the vote. All in favor? Yeah, item 3. Well, item 1 and 3 we have to receive. All in favor? Contrary? Carried.
Vacation.
I'm sorry?
Did Councillor Gardner make an amendment or no?
No. That carried. I'm sorry. My apologies. Yes, it carried. Excuse me? Item 31. Would someone put that on the floor, please? Councillor Perry, Councillor Thompson. This is with respect to asking staff now to prepare final budget report to be presented to council. Comments or questions on this? In that case, calling the vote. All in favor? Oh, what are you next? Councillor Thompson.
You know, tonight we had a report in front of us, and I mean, essentially, it's added a few extra dollars to the tax levy, and so I'd like to have a couple questions going back to to find some ways to help offset those increases. One of which is consultants.
I'm sorry?
Consultants. If you look at the byline, the budget line in the details, you know, we spend about $170,000 a year on consultants, or at least that's the budgeted figure. And so perhaps through you to Mr. Elliott, if possible, do you know what the actuals were on the consultants for 2013, or as close to as you can get?
Mr. Elliott?
Through you, Mr. Chair, currently there's $155,000 budgeted against that line item throughout the departments across, although we are not quite finished with our year-end accruals, and so there may be a few other dollars yet to come in. And I know that the auditors are trying to bill us a little for our year-end as well.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Through you to Mr. Garby, that $170,000 that's budgeted for 2014, is it all spoken for, or is it some of it sort of a contingency as well?
Mr. Garby, excuse me.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is a balance. There is some contingency dollars to take on additional work that may spring up through the year.
Councillor?
I mean, tonight we were faced with some unforeseen costs with regards to the rise in insurance premiums, and you know, I don't know if there's that opportunity to look at the consultant account again and talk to the department heads and see if there's an opportunity there to reduce it a little bit from 170 to sort of blunt some of the impact from the insurance costs that have risen or not. And I almost, you know, I prefer to sort of see that or have that discussion prior to it coming back to council and having that. And so, you know, that's sort of one area. Another area that I did see from a line item perspective is there's $100,000 advocated for advocacy. Can either Mr. Garby or Mr. Elliott speak to that?
Mr. Elliott?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the phrase advocacy has been used normally in the area of external legal expenses, and it's for advocacy on OMB matters or other matters that Mr. Marr picks up, and there's a similar line item related to human resources, and that's for outside legal advice with respect to HR matters specifically.
And so it's a similar comment to the consultants, because in some way, you know, they're external legal, and I get it that it's a placeholder. I don't know if it's all allocated, knowing that we will spend that much, or some of it's a contingency, a fallback position again. But again, it's a question of one of those accounts, no different than the council contingency account where we look at it and we say, okay, we're allocating $50,000 next year just in case. We've said tonight that we're going to take 10 of that and use it to fund the HS. But, you know, looking for an additional way to blunt the impact that the rise in insurance premiums have for us, you know, are there opportunities to go back to some of these external ones and look at and say, okay, you know, we may need to reduce that contingency to help blunt the impact.
Thank you, Councillor. I was just conferring with Mr. Garby. It may make more sense at this point, rather than bring this to council, to bring it to another GC.
And I'd be fine with that. I know Councillor Gardner has raised a question tonight that she wanted an opportunity to speak to supplementaries because she wasn't there at the meeting, and I'm fine to have that additional one, you know, perhaps to give members of council another opportunity to address a few things to offset some of the increases that we spoke about this evening. I'd rather do it at another GC or another budget meeting rather than at the final council meeting.
At this point, we had canceled the placeholder for next week. And it was going to come back to council on the 25th. So at this point, this could be delayed. Mr. Garby and Mr. Elliott, you have a suggestion, perhaps?
Well, it's planned. It's family day.
The 23rd. Is it possible to reinstate the meeting that we canceled on the 23rd?
I don't know if we could turn if there's significant changes on the 23rd. No, 23rd or 24th. It'd be the 24th.
Unless for what? Sunday, yeah, okay.
It would be the 24th, and then the council meeting's on the 25th. You couldn't turn that around in time.
You know, I don't know how others feel around the table, so I'll just leave it out for discussion. But myself, I'm open to reinstating the meeting on the 24th.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not married to the February 25th date to bring it back to council. In fact, I had been previously planning on sometime in March. And so if it's understanding that, I'd be happy to work on whether it's the 24th, the Monday evening that we had originally, I believe we had originally scheduled a meeting, and pick up the budget discussions from there. I do know that we just recently received our detailed rates from our new benefits carrier, and we're trying to assess the impacts of that. We know that it's still more cost effective to switch carriers, but we're just working through the details to find out what the impact is, because they are a little higher than we thought they were. And so we can do that analysis. We can come back with an update on that issue, and then entertain any further discussion that any members of committee have on the
Mr.
budget.
Elliott, so to the 24th, would that give you enough time to do what you need to do? A follow-up budget meeting? GC?
I think it will.
Okay.
If I'm hearing that the benefit rates may increase, then we may have to revisit this whole conversation like we've had tonight and stuff. Then definitely we need another budget meeting rather than take this straight to council, because I'm sure that, like we saw this evening, I mean, we spent a considerable amount of time asking questions about insurance and the premiums going up, and if our benefit premiums are going up as well, or costs, I foresee the need for another meeting.
So then, would someone care to put on that we move to have a special, Councillors Thompson and Humphreys. So a special GC budget on the 24th of February, and then at that point we can determine a date to bring the council?
Yes.
To bring it to council? Would that be? Okay, so that's the motion. Speaking to that motion, then Councillor Abel, Councillor Gardner.
Would one meeting be enough? Maybe we need 2 or 3 more. Do we have time for those?
Some of the work that we're looking at trying to accomplish with respect to the benefits issue is, again, very similar to Councillor Thompson's request on the insurance, is how can we mitigate it? How can we deliver this within the budget? And what are the options in that regard? So we'll come back with a detailed report. It's just literally these things came into us mid to late last week, and we haven't had an opportunity to fully develop the analysis and the recommendation.
I think at this point one meeting sounds okay, but yeah.
Well, you never know. When you were intending on bringing it in, if it was March or April, we're not pinholing ourselves into rushing through this. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Gardner, Humphreys.
I'm having a medical procedure on the 24th, so I don't think I'll be here that evening. So I'm just one person.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Humphreys.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and I really appreciate having another GC. One of the things I'm hoping for is that we keep that tax rate increase at what we're hoping to keep. And some of the additions tonight may change it, so when that comes back.
381.
Yeah, 381. We've done some things tonight. We're hoping we'll go back, take a look at what we need to work with to try to keep that tax rate down. So I absolutely appreciate the opportunity to look at that one more time before it comes to council.
Councillor Gardner, second time.
If I'm not here on the 24th, then it'll be understood that I'll speak at council on what my concerns are.
We always have an option to speak at council, Councillor Gardner.
Just as long as you're aware of that.
Or another meeting. All right, all in favor then of that motion, which is to go to the contrary? That is carried. That's to the 24th. Thank you. And I was conferring, I believe that's it, Madam Clerk? Councillor Gardner, I was conferring with the clerk. We were talking about whether or not to have a motion with respect to the clerk bringing back a report. So if you care to put that motion on the floor, actually we should probably waive procedure.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'm lost. I'm not.
With respect to Ms. McCleave's report on the questions.
Right.
So just for...
to have a motion?
Yep.
So
first of all, that waiver of procedure. Councillors Gardner and Peary, the waive procedure to allow council. Contrary? Carried. And then the motion would be to have Ms. Mahar bring back
a report on those items that she was speaking to earlier.
Councillors Gardner
Thank
and
you.
Peary again. All in favor? Contrary? That is carried. In that case, we are looking for a motion to recess to the 24th of February. Councillors Buck and Gallo. All in favor? Contrary? That's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, staff.